Everyone, welcome to the Borough Council Work Session meeting. Going to call the meeting to order, and we are going to move on to our Pledge of Allegiance led by Mr. Travis.
To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Thank you. We have a few announcements, starting with public hearings to be held tomorrow evening at 6:30. First one is a public hearing for comments on Comcast past performance under its franchise agreement. Our second one will be a public hearing to amend certain regulations in subsection 338T Community Campus Committee. And lastly, a public hearing to enact an ordinance reauthorizing the Westchester Business Improvement District 5-year final plan. Next, we will have comments, suggestions, petitions by residents, taxpayers, and visitors in attendance regarding items that are not on the agenda. Okay, thank you. We will move on to reports and presentations, starting with the Westchester Public Library.
We have some handouts that are going around. Is this on? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
You could speak a little bit louder, though, please. Thank you.
All right. Members of the Borough Council, I'm Deborah Nay. I'm the board president of the Westchester Public Library. And I want to thank you for the opportunity to address you this evening on behalf of the Westchester Public Library. My remarks tonight are rooted in, first, deep gratitude for your longstanding partnership and support, and in a shared vision for the future of our community's library. For nearly 140 years, the Westchester Public Library has stood as a cornerstone of Westchester's civic life, a place where every resident, regardless of age or circumstance, can access knowledge and a welcoming space to connect with others. This enduring mission is possible only because of the borough's commitment to public investment and stewardship. Your support has been both generous and essential. Through annual appropriations, dedicated millage, and operational assistance, the borough has been instrumental in every major improvement to our historic building. From the 2003 expansion and renovation to ongoing maintenance and our debt refinancing, every one of you and your predecessors have helped us weather challenges and seize opportunity to better serve our patrons. And for this, we're sincerely grateful. But as you know, our work is never finished. Today, the library faces urgent capital needs that threaten both our ability to serve and the preservation of our historic building. There is water intrusion in the lower level, a roof near the end of its useful life, and deferred maintenance. And these are not just facility issues. They are risks to our collections, to our programming, and to the safety of our patrons. We have prioritized these repairs. We have sought grants. We have stretched every dollar. But the scale of these needs exceeds what private fundraising alone can achieve. We respectfully ask for your continued financial support to address these immediate challenges. The library is not a profit-making enterprise. It is a public good, returning every dollar invested in the form of free educational programs, digital access, early literacy support, and a safe third space for everyone in Westchester. Your investment is not a subsidy. It does not subsidize the library. It is a shared commitment to the infrastructure that sustains Westchester's social and economic well-being. The risks of not acting are real. Structural damage, loss of historic value, and diminished service to thousands of Westchester residents who rely on the library. By acting together, we can ensure that the library remains a vibrant, accessible, and welcoming resource for generations to come. We're proud of our responsible stewardship. We have annual audits, board-approved budgets, and transparent operations. We're actively pursuing grants and other funding sources, but public support from people like you remains irreplaceable. On behalf of the library board, our staff, and countless Westchester residents who benefit from your vision and generosity, thank you. Thank you for all that you have done and for all that we can accomplish together. We look forward to working with you to secure the future of the Westchester Public Library. We remain ready to answer any questions that you may have.
If you wouldn't mind starting with what are the nature of the existing problems, what are the cost timeline for repair?
Yes. So, and in this, I'm going to ask my colleague, who is the chair of our building committee.
Hi, I'm Kelly Dungy. I'm the chair of the building committee. So we currently have a number of issues. The bigger packet contains a breakdown and a sort of a layout of how we would suggest approaching our current issues. The primary issue is the water intrusion, as Deb mentioned. We've had a number of other issues that have cropped up this year. We've had some broken windows that are custom, that have broken or failed. We're replacing those with grant funding. So it's a perfect, and some board directed funds, perfect example of how we're trying to manage where we can. The water intrusion is the biggest issue. You guys were kind enough to send Mr. Cherry out to help us try to figure out what the primary source of that intrusion was. And I think he's identified some good steps. There's a kind of a small, medium, and large approach to addressing those. And it is kind of laid out in that presentation. The kind of semi-permanent fix to address the leak at the current time is about $15,000. On top of that, there will be repairs that will be needed interior to the building where it has leaked. The longer term fix to replace the entire system is about $150,000, $150,000 to $200,000. That is the patio membrane. And there is a newer system addresses the issue in a different way than the one that was installed 20 years ago does. Beyond the water intrusion, the roof, as Deb mentioned, on the top of the building is also reaching end of life. It is not currently leaking. We had a roofer up there this summer. He did not identify any major issues, but it will need to be replaced in the next 2 to 3 years. We've applied for a T-Mobile hometown grant to try to close some of that gap, but that's estimated to be about $135,000 to replace it in the same design that it currently is. But those are the big ones right now. The other thing I think that we would really appreciate some support with is getting an architectural and engineering survey of the building. I'm a nurse. Deb's an attorney. We don't know what the building needs right now entirely. We know that we have a leak and we know we have to plug that. And we know just because the roof is 30 years old that it needs to be replaced. But to Deb's point, the deferred maintenance is really a concern. The borough has always been, Public Works has always been incredibly helpful. They're out immediately when we call about a clogged toilet or something falling down. But I think it's really that proactive maintenance that we need to think about, masonry, things like that. So those are kind of our priorities over the next 3 to 5 years.
So besides the one grant that you're applying for,
Correct.
What was that, 2027, I think?
Yeah, so
Um,
the roof, the T-Mobile grants,
Yes.
that'll
so-
be awarded November this year, and we will have to use it by November of 2026.
Okay, so besides that
Mhm.
grant that you're applying for, what other capital campaign actions and activities are you planning on doing to help? I'm assuming you're not asking us to give you all this money, that you have a plan of your own to get yourselves to a good place.
Yeah, so it's I think a good comparison would be to compare us to, let's say, the Nower, right? I think we're all familiar with the Nower uptown, right? So the Canower, excuse me, the Canower, they have a, first of all, they can charge for their programs, right? And we can't. They have a budget of, their annual revenues are 1.1 million, and our annual revenues are 500,000. They have staff, they have more than a dozen people on their staff. We have 3 full-time staff, none of whom are development people. Okay, so if we want to run a capital campaign, which we're trying to do, we have a 150 capital campaign, which we've been trying to raise funds. It's very hard for us to do that. It's entirely board directed. Our board is capped at 13 members. How big, Nicole, excuse me, council person is the board at the Canower?
Connie, what's
It's
it?
20 something. It is. It's 20 something. It's way larger than ours, right? Their assets are $4.1 million. Okay. Ours are a fraction of that. If we want to apply for a Keystone grant to refurbish the building, we have to have the money in hand when we apply for that matching grant. And most grants for the library are like that. Not when we receive the funds for fundraising, but when we apply for the grant, we have to have the funds already in the bank in order to apply for that to repair a historic building. Okay, so that also limits the type of grants that we can apply for. So all of these things make it very, very difficult for an organization like a library to apply for and to fundraise. In addition, we are a 501c3, like the Canower, but we are also a public library bound by state library laws. So we exist in this kind of hybrid environment where we are bound by fiduciary duties, nonprofit laws, IRS codes, but also Pennsylvania library laws on what we can and can't do. So for example, we can't just, oh, you know what would be great? Let's get a bookmobile. Let's go out into the public and let's get a van and load it up with books and bring it out to the people. Or let's for a fundraising thing, let's have an annex and put it into, somewhere down the street on the other side of town. There are so many regulations in the library code that govern having just a bookmobile. It's not like it was like with RIF or what have you when I was a kid. And so we can't just do things that you would think would be super easy as a fundraising endeavor. So it's apples and oranges to compare us to the History Center, the Canower, or some of these other nonprofits where you could just go out and say, hey, let's go out and just raise 150,000, 500,000, $1 million to do this. I hope that helps you.
It helps me understand what your obstacles are, but I would
Right.
still ask you, what's your plan?
Okay.
Right? Like, I mean, I would assume
Yes.
somewhere between, millions and millions of dollars and zero, there's funding that you are
Yes,
capable of
yes,
raising and doing
Yes.
things.
So,
So.
and that will lead to right here.
Hi there, folks. Shannon McDonald. I am the vice president of the board. I also
sit as the chair of our largest annual fundraiser activity, which is the Holiday Home Tour. Wonderful activity, usually raises between $50,000 and $80,000 for the library every year. We also have an annual appeal that we put out. We do have the Next 150, which is our capital campaign, and it has raised a couple $100,000 in the bank right now. So we're very proud of that. We applied for a Lowe's hometown grant this year. We applied for a T-Mobile hometown grant this year. We plan to apply for a Keystone grant this year. And we have these ideas of the more grants we apply for, the more money we will get. These are all grants that are intended to improve our facilities. The idea of the grants this year, because of this pressure on our building, has been to improve our facilities and apply for grants specifically targeted to that, as opposed to some of our prior year grants, which might have been to, we have some beautiful new patio furniture, for example, that was provided by a grant 2 years ago. We are focused on our grant ideas and we are applying for grants. We also have gone to specific donors, and Mr. Lance Nelson here has, he works on our development committee, and he approaches donors about the specific facilities of the library and how to get personal and individual people involved and maybe create some matching campaigns and things like that. So these are our ideas. These are the things we are implementing in development right now. We have had some changes to the structure of our library recently, and every year is different, but these new things have come to light, and that is why we are focused on these new types of grants that we were not prior to this focused on. Does that help answer the question a little bit? The plan is the Keystone grant would ideally replace the roof. 17 out of 21 applied for Keystone grants last year were granted. That is a specific library grant, and that is through the state. So 17 out of 21, we feel like that's really good odds for our roof. And there are 2 or 3 of those that are roofs, that are HVACs, that are, you know, these are really intended for facilities. So that is our plan for our roof if we don't have any other options. It is our plan regardless of other options, actually, because it's due on November 22nd. So the grant is in process now. These are specific plans. Now, if we had our druthers, would we like to put that out and maybe use that money to do something else? Of course we would. But, you know, like Deb said, we wanted to make this a matching grant. We wanted to get as much in our capital campaign as possible so that we could potentially not only apply for the roof, but renovating the whole building. That was the original idea with the Keystone grant. The roof has become so urgent that we need to apply for it this year now. Other plans moving forward, you know, the Lowe's hometown grant didn't come through this year for the public restrooms. We'll try again next year. You know, these are the ways that we are going forward with this, and identifying these places that will offer these grants specifically for facilities. Does that help?
I have a similar question along the same lines. Looking at the financials, when I looked at these, I saw that your fundraising is about 40% of where it has been in the past.
We have an annual appeal that really brings on a lot in the third quarter, and our holiday home tour, which is a huge fundraiser for us. That always is in the third quarter because it's the holiday home tour. It's always the first Saturday in December. So most of our fundraising occurs then
in the fourth quarter.
Fourth quarter,
Okay.
right?
That's
and so that's why our fundraising doesn't look like it's on par with other years. We are confident it will be.
okay.
We also do have 100% board commitment in our appeals and our fundraising activities. So our board is all in.
Okay. My other question was related to grants, which I think you answered, because that it doesn't look like there have been grants in 2025 or 2024 and a low amount in 2023.
We did get it this year to do the windows.
Right.
Okay.
That isn't on these because there was a technical problem with the county library system's financial, their IT really. And that is still being debriefed. So that is not reflected on here, but we did get a grant for replacement of the windows that were actively leaking. That was through the Chester County
And that's it.
Foundation.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
So if I could just ask a question about the budget, and perhaps it's not a very detailed budget, this is a summary.
Correct. This is
But-
a summary.
In terms of, building maintenance expenses, I don't see any line item in here the last few years.
We are a library first and foremost. I think in some ways we rely on a lot of in-kind. We do have a few board members who are able to pull some strings when we need it, and we have a lot of generous support on our regular maintenance from the borough. Things like our HVAC and things like that, we do get a lot of support from the borough. It is specialized items like the windows, the roof, renovations that we need to either seek grants or find other resources for.
So the AE grant or services that you're looking for in 26 would be to identify what do you need over the next few years?
Correct. That is a big piece for us, is this architectural study that would tell us what we don't know and why we don't know it. If we had known that, perhaps we would have fixed this, this tilt right at our doorway and we wouldn't have a water intrusion, or it wouldn't have gotten to the point that it is. Instead, that architectural survey would have pointed that out before we had true water. And it is, I mean, it is a tilt. Somebody, Mr. Cherry was able to identify it. And so having somebody who's experienced and able to see those things would be a huge service to us and allow us to plan better for our future.
Shannon, have any other municipalities contributed to the Westchester Public Library besides Westchester Borough?
Yes, and actually there have been a few comments about that in the news lately, is that we do get support from our all of the municipalities that are part of this allocated library service area. We go to them annually and we ask them annually. Ms. Stanton, our director, goes to them and asks them annually for contributions, and when needed, increases in contributions. And so West Goshen, West Town, both of those, Birmingham, Pocopson, where am I forgetting? Thornbury, thank you. All of these do contribute to us and we ask them for help. They often offer help, but they are happy to help provide the services for the library. And I think that we just haven't asked for what we ask for from this borough as our partner in this.
Yeah, and I think there's also a distinction where they're providing maybe $1 to $3.83 per capita. I will admit that you are providing more per capita. You're also appointing every single member of our board of directors. You're requiring that 7 out of 13 of our board of directors live or reside in the borough. We are a polling place for the borough. And most of the people that are patrons of the library reside in the borough, receive the programs in the borough. It's been proven that having a library in a residential area increases property values in that residential area. I mean, clearly the borough is getting the benefit of the bargain for their per capita investment in the library vis-a-vis the other townships.
Have
So
you asked for support from the university?
We have not. We have not asked for support from the university. The university does assist us with some things, such as Tanglewood is on the holiday home tour this year, and we are grateful for that. We also have connections there where we ask for volunteer assistance for some of our activities and programs. The university is not a financial contributor to the library, and I don't believe that has ever really been a conversation. I don't think that they view their college students as utilizing the services of the library.
I would argue that a portion of their college students come from your facility, and I think that they have reason to support it just as we do. And I just see them sitting behind you, and I thought that was worth bringing up.
It's a valid ask. Thank you.
Can I just ask, I know you have some grants that are in the pipeline right now, and that you're hoping that they will come through and they will pay for some of these expenses. And I know that we have some short, medium, and long-term fixes. Most of it sounds roofing related, at least for now, versus a complete renovation of the building. What specifically are you asking for us? Because the likelihood of getting the grants, the timing of when you need to actually make the repairs, maybe for the benefit of the public and also for us, to just summarize what exactly you need from us.
We need the short-term patio fix. We need to have our broken gutters repaired. We need to have the interior of the building then rehabilitated. Do we need all of that from you immediately? No, and we can work our own fixes as well. But what we are asking for the borough tonight is the short-term fix for the patio, the $15,000 for the ceramic tile caulking, as well as for the repair that is needed to help that to remain not an eyesore. I didn't really, that was a double negative and I apologize. I hate using those, but we just don't want it to look like something that's dangerous to the public. And then further, we are asking for the borough to assist us by getting an architectural survey done. Those are our asks. We have other dreams. We would really ask that you consider our needs in your future budget as well. But I think, as I have acknowledged, we are here and we know that you have gone through a lot of your budgeting process already. So those are most urgent asks. If I could leave here with only those things, I think that's where we would leave.
An estimate for how much those water repairs will cost on the interior?
Kelly?
I'll have, so the repair to the ceramic, we're estimating about 15,000. And then the interior, probably another 5. Once we're finished that, then the architectural survey, I think we've estimated at about 5. So in total, about 25.
Your the presentation that you put together, for those of us that read it already, it says 15,000. So where's the 5?
The 5 is, there's underneath that, there's another line that says, once the repair has been completed, we'll need to do the interior. I may have,
Yeah, so
we'd have to get the bid, but I think 25 is the max that we would ask for. There may be, the 15 is the estimate that we've gotten to repair the ceramic. And we would need to repair the interior, the drywall, carpets moldy. It's been wet.
So I did a visit with Kelly yesterday or the day before, and having worked with buildings for a long time, water is your enemy. And, bad news does not get better with time. It's only going to get more expensive the longer these repairs are put off. Obviously, the architectural engineering survey should be done as soon as possible so you can identify what really the problem is. It sounds like Mr. Cherry has. That's a start, and then to get real estimates. But it sounds like that repair is going to be in the 150 range regardless.
Yeah, the full repair to that patio, so it does not leak,
Okay.
will be about 150.
Mr. McCoy, excuse me, have you ever have you recently had that building appraised?
No.
Because as I talked to Deb over the weekend, because I asked her for some questions, we have a so-called mortgage of about 700,000. Am I right? If I remember right.
it's down now to about 380.
Okay, so it was so-called mortgage of 300,000 because of all the major renovations. I'd be very interested to see what the borough is actually worth. I mean, the building's actually worth. And would it be better if you owned the land as well as the building? Because then you'd have a single source to be able to go out and get loans and more funding from banks and other institutions based on owning the entire parcel. But I'd be interested, I know the building cost is worth more than 300,000. So I was wondering if we could go down that route.
If I could just speak
Go
for a
ahead.
second. I was the president of the board when we refinanced some of the debt a while back.
Excuse me, who are you?
Lance Nelson, 300 block of Dean Street.
Thank you, Mr. Nelson.
You're welcome. Fortunately, we had some relationships with Fulton Bank, and Fulton was able to give us a very favorable thing. The problem is, even if we owned the building and the land, it's deed restricted to being a library. So there's not many financial institutions that really want to take a mortgage on a building that's deed restricted to be a library, and then there'll be the bad guys foreclosing on and closing a library. So it was really based upon relationships with Fulton. That the fact that we didn't own the land didn't really prevent us from getting that because of those relationships. But to answer your question, Councilman, I don't know that it would improve our ability to get mortgages. The other thing to keep in mind is that under the library code, we have to spend 12% of our budget on materials. So for every dollar we spend in a mortgage, we actually spend 112. So like some of the libraries that don't have mortgages, they're able to better manage their budget. So like for every mortgage dollar we spend, we have to spend another $12 in materials by the library code, which then limits our ability to spend it on other things.
By materials, we mean books, DVDs.
Books.
Nelson, as I was earlier alluding to, a row home, that's what they call them where I come from. I don't know what they call them.
It's where they
really.
call them on the 300 block of Dean Street.
Thank you very much. Row homes are selling for like $800,000 to $900,000. So if we have a mortgage of a building of 300,000, I'm sure somewhere along the line, some of your friends at Fulton Bank.
I'm not saying Fulton won't.
I'm just saying, Mr. Reese is a nice fellow, but I'm just saying, you're not sitting on no value.
Correct.
So you have value, but we, like a reverse mortgage, that guy, Tom Selleck, still love Tom Selleck, that mustache, but, and Blue Bloods. But the fact is, you're sitting on a very large, amount of money there that we have to figure out your best way of trying to tap into it backwards.
Right.
No question. I mean, one of the challenges is, as you can see from our budget, we do operate on a shoestring. So if we were to go borrow $500,000 more than we already borrowed, for example, to fix everything that's wrong with the library, then we got to come up with another 50 or 60 grand a year to service that mortgage, which means we have to come up with 112% of that to service the mortgage. One of the goals of the 150 campaign before these issues came up with the building was to retire the mortgage, because that would free up not only the mortgage and interest payment to use for actual operations for our patrons, but also free up that extra 12% that's going to that. So to answer your question, we could, but then we would be saying, all right, now we're operating at a budget deficit because we have this new expense with the increased mortgage.
And it's very, very unusual. There's only one other library in the entire Chester County library system with a mortgage, and that's Kennett with their new library. None of the other libraries have debt. And I am a commercial finance attorney. I handle real estate loans, commercial loans every day. And Lance is absolutely right. I mean, there isn't a bank that's going to lend if you don't have the excess cash flow to service the debt. The debt service coverage ratio is just it's not there. I mean, we just don't have the excess cash that would service the debt if we wanted to increase the leverage on the library.
And that's actually one of the reasons when we did the 2003 renovations, the borough was kind enough to loan us some money when the renovations to a historic building often do run over budget, because we couldn't get a commercial loan for that amount of money.
To finish my thought process, and I talked to Deb about this weekend, let's go back to the equity that I know that you guys really have on that corner. If you own the land, if the borough charged you $1 to give you the land, you own the land, you own the building. and the residents of the borough and borough council decide to increase your millage to take care of, you know, the maintenance end. I think we give you roughly, we give you roughly 15?
It's like 110.
Okay, 110. So if we raise the millage, because everyone wants the library to succeed, and you own the land and the building, the residents of the borough are still highly invested in your success. So in order to cover whatever the nut is, you know, the move forward, if it's possible, our solicitor would have to tell us, and of course, our financial guru, Barb Leonti, whatever that millage rate would be to cover up the debt that you would
I mean,
take on.
I think that idea could be pursued without the necessity of actually transferring the land. I think we could, because the loan was originally higher with Fulton, we could go to Fulton. We actually looked at trying to refinance the debt with Fulton, except we were fortunate when the debt was put in place. I think our rate's 3% or something like that.
It's 3.75 now.
Yeah, and you're not going to get 3.75 rate. So, but Fulton would give us more money, and if you increase the millage to cover that increase, we could go to Fulton and get a mortgage to pay for some of this stuff, to answer your question.
Mr. McCoy, you know, that was a thought that I had over the weekend, and I bounced it off Deb. But the immediate issue, as you mentioned, it's not going to get any easier to fix the leak in the patio. You know, it's roughly about $15,000. And I'm sure we could find Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts and Cub Scouts to come in there, scrape and paint walls inside and save $5,000 on weekends, or retired people to help out.
You might be better off with retired people than Boy Scouts and Cub Scouts.
Yeah, but I mean, to that point, their immediate need, it's not the roof, it's the leak. And it's roughly 15,000, but I think, you know, we should look in, they work along, if it's possible, to have the residents of the borough decide whether they want to raise the millage and make the library self-sustaining. Go-
But that is exactly what you did in the past with the bonds also. Councilman Bernie Flynn talked about that with me over the weekend, which is that there was a bond. I think you still have the bond on the parking garage, right? Part of that went with the library for the library debt, and you had that originally at 475, right? Originally, way back when, and then you refinanced it, right? To 195, right?
You're probably talking to people that were
Oh,
not
wait,
here
wait,
when all of this occurred.
You had the parking garage and library bond debt, and you charged us a little bit more than you had on the bond debt, and so you were able to float.
I think what.
We can't help you on that because we don't know.
Right, I think
That's
what
that's even before my time,
the
so.
renovations in the early 2000s coincided with building of one of the parking garage. So that's how you guys got the funds to loan us some money on those renovations.
Yeah.
Was you increased the amount of bond on the parking garage, which we eventually paid back.
We did.
And then I want to say like 8 or 9 years ago, prior council agreed to, we did a special campaign to retire that debt, and council agreed for every dollar we raised to retire, you would retire. So I think we raised another 50 or 60 grand, and then council forgave about 50 grand worth of that debt. But that was, I'm pretty positive, at least 2 councils ago.
So I'm just saying that's another way to do it without the millage without the millage increase.
The millage rate would actually help you a lot more
From a long-term.
for long-term perspective than anything in the line. And then you guys could be self-sufficient, you know, over there with the,
Just to be clear, the library is not advocating raising taxes.
no,
Right.
no.
That's why I'm saying
Well,
there's other
we'll blame,
options.
it's an election year, so we'll blame you. No, I'm just teasing. No, the residents of the borough are very kind
Absolutely.
to set aside money a few years back because they had a referendum that said the library is that important and we should give millage money to them to sustain them.
Correct.
Okay. You're in a little bit of a pickle right now with the building being old. Okay. So you got to start thinking reverse mortgage somehow. And I'll put you in touch with Tom Selleck, like I told you, and you guys can actually do that. But a council, as far as I'm concerned, council, just can't, I don't want to use the word bailing out, but we just don't have the funds ourselves, to allocate all the time with different events. But that was my point, Mr.
Thank you, Mr. Flynn. Council, other comments?
Ask, and the loan that we gave to Uptown that they paid back, do we still have that money and can we give some of that can we loan that to them and then does that not count as a mortgage?
You want to answer that?
Revolving loan?
Yeah.
And where's Shannon over there? Because this was something that I brought up when we met last week, that, we've got this loan money that we haven't done something with, and this is the type of thing that it's for.
And we understand that. Our problem is with the idea of taking on more debt, knowing that then we impact our own budget because we do have to spend that 12%. We are obligated under law and under the Chester County Library's agreement to spend more when we take on more debt. And we feel we've already gotten ourselves into maybe not the wisest position with our debt. And we really wanted to retire all of our debt and not take on more.
So you've been saying it's a mortgage that
So
requires
it
that,
is,
but
a mortgage is a,
It's colloquially, we call it a mortgage.
So,
It's not a mortgage.
it is a loan.
Library code.
I don't know library code, so you,
In the library code, we're required to spend 12% of all of our expenses on materials. So think of it like every dollar we spend for utilities, that's 12 cents on materials. Every dollar we spend for staff, that's 12% we have to spend
Mhm.
on materials. Whether it's a mortgage, a loan payment, it doesn't really matter what it is,
or buying toilet paper.
or buying toilet paper.
So you're going to be spending this money, so you're going to have to,
Right, but in the debt versus getting a grant or something like that, if you take on more debt, $100 debt payment per month really is $112 per month.
If that,
just for my own understanding, the loan that we would give to, if we were to give a loan, are we charging interest? We have to, and what is the minimum interest we can charge?
I believe the minimum is 1%. Am I right, Barb?
It's not the applicable federal rate.
I mean, I would say 3%.
3%. Okay. So 3%. So now you're at the Fulton Bank, 3% level
And
again.
certainly, the choice between paying Fulton 6 or 7% and paying the borough 3% is kind of like a no-brainer.
we,
But, that would require us adjusting the budget to, include those mortgage things. And as you can see from our budget, there's not a lot of wiggle room to pay that to the borough.
There's not a lot of wiggle room in our budgets either. And that I just want to make sure that we are looking at every option and understanding how that is going to be best for everyone involved. I want to see the university step up and provide all of this for you at no fee, since we're being awfully nice, or I am being awfully nice to the university. They should be awfully nice to our community, and you are part of that.
we would be grateful for whatever the borough can give us. The borough is our municipal seat. We are grateful to exist in the borough and get the benefits of being in this wonderful, walkable, welcoming neighborhood, right? We are absolutely. If the borough tells us this is all you can do for us, we will thank you very much for it.
Whatever format.
In whatever format it would come to us, we would be very grateful. We
I
are,
ask one
we
more?
want to be clear about the problems for the future of the library that a debt puts on us, and the fact that we have a 2003 debt that, in all honesty, it is not a mortgage, it's a commercial loan secured by a physical building that comes to a balloon payment every 10 years. And every 10 years we say, we're gonna retire it. And then we need a roof. And then we need a set of carpets. And we're a library, and we have to act as a library. We cannot act as a business. We can't raise tuition. We can't charge a larger ticket price. There's no ticket price. There's no tuition. We are free. We are welcoming to all. And we are grateful for the support the borough provides us in all forms.
If I could ask a question, please.
But I'm sure everybody didn't come here to hear about the library. So we know you have other things on your agenda, so we're happy to answer any final questions.
Yes, I do have a question. So if the borough were to pay for the expense directly, does that 12% apply to that as well?
It would not, but I would defer to your solicitor. If the borough was paying for it, I think there's a whole different process you all have to go through in terms of potentially public bidding, which in and of itself could end up being more expensive than the 12%.
Okay. Council, any other questions, comments? Any public comments or questions?
Thank you so much.
Mayor?
Yeah, I just had one. Someone asked the question if you had gone to any of the surrounding municipalities and townships with the same request, and you said you requested services. Do you intend to request, and I guess you mean in-kind services?
No, Mayor. We request financial support. But
and
what
have
we
you
do is we
received it?
present to them how wonderful the services that we provide for their residents
Right.
are, as a means of persuading them to provide us an allocation. And theirs are not millages. Those are allocations that come out of their budget each year and are usually rated at a per capita rate. They don't charge a tax to their residents. They instead look at their budget and they say, this year we can give you this much. And we say, well, per capita, that matches up with the residents who use our library that are your residents. And so we thank you for that.
So I guess my question is exactly what amount of this total are they contributing? Total.
We've started with you, and we're going to go to them next.
Okay.
They have, some of them have raised their provisions to us in the last year or two. And some of them discussed even at the most recent meeting, providing us more financial support at a per capita rate. And that's how they think of it, and then total it out in their budget.
So give me an estimate of what they've done in the past, all of them combined.
I'm not the numbers person,
So-
Ms. Dungy.
The budget shows they contribute about 15%.
There is a summary. They provide, for every dollar you provide, the borough, they provide in total about 50 cents. So they provide about
Thank you.
Yeah. 1 and 2.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I
Thank you.
appreciate it. So I'd suggest, can we move this to further discussion for voting session tomorrow?
Questions, feel free to email us. Thank you.
Can we move this to discussion for tomorrow evening, or can we, because we are in the middle of the budget cycle, we need to decide what's going to be
think that we
placed in it.
Can you hear me? Okay. We're going to talk about this when we talk about the preliminary budget on our agenda tonight, and maybe that'll take care of this issue. I'm glad for the extra information. I learned a lot that I didn't know until tonight.
All right, thank you. We will move on to the next presentation, which is a presentation of the Westchester Historic Resources Atlas to the Westchester Borough Council. Mr. David Blackburn of the Chester County Historic.
Good evening. My name is Tom Walsh, Chair of the Historical Commission. We have 2 guests from the county here tonight, and they are going to give a gift to the borough at no charge to the borough of Westchester. I'm going to make a couple of quick comments and then turn the rest of the session over to our guest. First of all, this is a project, if you look at it, that goes back to 2018. That's the fruition of what you will be seeing tonight goes back that far. I'm going to quote a line from the minutes of the Historical Commission from May 17th, 2018. Karen Marshall, the former preservation director, spoke at length about the county's Historic Resource Atlas project. In order to get an atlas project done by the county, you need a database. We didn't have one. We applied for a grant and we got a $25,000 grant. That grant was awarded to Jane Dorchester, architectural historian and preservation consultant. In addition, the field work was subbed to Nancy Sorolino, who was proprietor of Sorolino Planning and GTS Services. They compiled the database with the state. It caused some problems initially because the state changed databases and it drugged things out for quite a while. But the job was done, and the county or the borough has in its hands right now a database of over 4,000 historic properties that housing and building and codes can use, council can use. You have that database on file. Once that was done, things were turned over to the county. There needed to be some changes made, and I will point out for the record that Jane Dorchester, on her own, without any remuneration from the county or the borough, helped in this project and helped make some of the corrections and changes that were needed. And as a result of that, we have with us tonight David Blackburn. He is the Historic Preservation Coordinator, and Colin Murtoff, a GIS planner. And they are going to tell you about the Westchester Historic Preservation Atlas. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm David Blackburn with the Chester County Planning Commission. My official title is Heritage Preservation Coordinator. What that translates to is I'm the Director of Historic Preservation and Heritage Programming for Chester County. Upon the screen right now, you have the completed historic atlas of Westchester Borough. We have switched, and Colin will provide some examples, a little bit of context, from old-fashioned paper to digital. You can see right here and there, the advantage of moving in this direction is that it provides opportunities to share it far and wide with not only you, but with the constituents of the borough, as well as beyond. The advantage is that it's also very granular. With digital platforms, it provides us a level of opportunity to share information on any of the properties identified as a historic resource in a way that we never could have with paper. Finally, by going digital as opposed to paper, for those of you who've been around to the old analog way of doing things, it would often change. There'd be addendums. Those addendums wouldn't necessarily be saved. They'd be lost. And that the accuracy of the map would shift and change very quickly. The advantage to you and advantage to all of the municipalities that we have done the digital map for is that it can be changed instantaneously. As a county, as a property is demolished, is changed, if boundaries change, if anything changes about the property with the digital system, we can ensure that the professional staff has that information at their fingertips in ways that we never could have done with paper. I love maps. maps are my thing, and it's extraordinary to be able to have and present to you from the work of the County Planning Commission this wonderful map and resource of the historic resources of Chester County. My colleague, Colin Murtoff, is the man behind the magic and can talk to you in a little bit more detail, the context of this, and a little bit about what the map does and doesn't do.
Good evening. So I think a lot of what I wanted to share with you has already been covered by these two. If you had any potential technical questions on how it was constructed, you may ask me, and David and I might have some answers for you. But again, the benefit of having this technology on a digital dynamic map, as David said, allows us to make any changes or edits on the fly that we may need to do. The old way of doing our atlases was with paper book that you could flip through, and we had the zoomed in aerial imagery with the properties available to view. But with changes that have been happening in mapping and geographic information systems, we're learning that the best way to kind of handle this type of project is to get it on a digital map, being able to zoom in and out, pan around, click in and out of information, and be able to view everything. Yes, sorry. And be able to view everything quicker and easier. We're just finding it to be a lot more efficient doing it this way. So
I don't know if you can do this live at this point, but could you give us an example of, a property that has an historic resource and
yeah,
what this map shows?
sure. I don't have access to the mouse right now. What it does allow you to do is zoom in, and any property that we have highlighted in purple here, if you do click on it, all of the attribute information does show with, I believe it's the parcel number, the number of resources. We've created our own identification system for those resources, and the description of the resource. So not every resource that is a description. A lot of the resources are address based, but any significant resource that does have a name or description does show. The arrow at the bottom that's pointing up, we click into that, the bottom of the page, there's a yes, right there. That will dynamically open up our attribute information for all of our parcels, our historic resource parcels, our structures, and our districts. Clicking into this also allows you to highlight a resource if you're interested in a particular resource, and then zoom into that resource as well. Search function is available for any particular address searches that you may need to do. And then we have our legend there as well. And the beauty of this as well is we like our Alice projects to be custom to the municipality that we're making them for. If they want to see any other particular features that they might find important to their historic preservation efforts, we can add these to the map at any point in time and make any changes that might need to be necessary.
Colin, the Chesco views,
Yes.
is this piggyback together, or is this going to be replacing the Chesco views?
So this is separate from Chesco Views. Chesco Views is maintained and managed by our Information Services Department. This is a product of the Planning Commission, separate from our Information Services Department. So this is not a legal document. This is just for planning purposes only, for our purposes, and for the municipalities that we do this for. Like Tom said, we do all of the work ourselves. It's a joint project that we find take benefit in, and it contributes to our preservation goals that we have laid out in our Landscapes 3 County Comprehensive Plan.
Include photographs or blueprints or any of those kinds of
No
things?
photographs at the moment. We do have a National Register map that shows National Register listed in historic and eligible properties in the countywide, that does include photographs that we potentially down the road may explore these municipal-based maps to include photographs if available and any other information. That's an extra step of effort that will need to be taken if we decide to go that route. But like it was said earlier, the nice thing about these applications are it's not a paper document. We can go in and we can make those additions if we find that it adds value to the product.
Great
This-
stuff. Thank you,
this
Council.
is really beautiful and I appreciate it. In conversations with the IT department here, we have been discussing keeping track of permitting for rental properties and student rentals. And it- how does that kind of information and this kind of information, how can those maps be either coordinated or overlapped? Is that possible in any way?
I don't know if I particularly have an answer for that, but I'm more than willing to coordinate with any mapping experts or IT people for the borough and compare results and mapping that we
I
have.
think the university and the borough, and then what you're doing
Yeah.
are all sort of trying to do very, very similar things, but from very different angles. And I've asked sort of the one side to reverse the way they're looking at things so that they can, so that say the parent of a university student can check if this is actually a property that has a permit for their children to live in. It's very different than what you're doing. But is it? Like, how different is it? And then that parent who lives in Montana, who's sending their kid all the way here, how are they going to know the difference between your map and the map that we might come up with, or the map that the university has? Like, I just want to be careful that we're all aware of what the other groups are doing and that we are sending people in the right places for when they're asking those kind of questions.
Did you want to share?
Yeah. This work is based on Jane Dorchester's work. There are over 4,000 historic resources for the borough on file in Harrisburg. That database was used to create this map. So the items that were brought up here are over 4,000 historic properties. So if you have a student rental at 123 X Street, staff here could go into this map and see if it is a historic property within the bid, for example, or the harb. And so staff has to be trained to use these databases and can use them when it comes to historic properties. For example, the Burger King, if this were available, you could have identified the historic properties around the Burger King site, whether the borough ordinance would allow any more leeway or restrictions for that project, I don't know. But that's just an example that I mentioned to you. Thank you.
Walsh,
Yes.
how do you determine what is a historical building?
I said historic resource, and Jane Dorchester would have to answer that. It's the records were put together. You can check your borough database right now that you have and see what information is on that. I never received a copy of that thumb drive. And if you can get that thumb drive, we could look at the database and see what was put in there. There may be additional data such as the age of the property, the type of architecture, and so on. And Jane, unfortunately, she's in British Columbia tonight and unable to give us what kind of data is in the state database, which you already have as well.
I didn't know whether it was a time stamped, like 18th century, 19th century, 20th century housing, that was in
It
there.
can vary.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
But I don't know how big a stock Westchester has, but there are over 4,000 items in this map base.
Can I ask one quick question to Mr. Blackburn?
Yeah.
What would be the primary use for a map like this? Would it be for protecting certain areas of the town or putting some sort of restrictions on tearing down a historic building? Or what are they use, what would we use this for?
All of the above. There are, I think we determined 48 municipalities that have created these maps. Of the 48, about, we believe, 8 or 9 are digital. These are simply created as a tool for your historic commissions, your HARBs, and for you to decide what direction you're going in. This map and all of the other maps show existing districts. It also shows the nature of the properties and reflects some of the data of the nature of each property as to why they're historic. So if the borough wants to change its ordinances regarding historic resources, this could be a tool for it. If there are property owners that are disputing the individual determination of their property, you could use this. If you're looking at opportunities to shift or change boundaries, this could be something with you could use. So it's not meant to be a tool automatically to save something, prevent something from demolition. It's simply a planning tool to assist you and your commissions from
Thank you.
and I can say just, Mr. Flynn, very briefly, a lot of the standards we use to historic properties are really defined at the federal level through the National Register of Historic Places and the National Park Service, something that every municipality in Chester County, as well as every county in Pennsylvania and every state in the union, is going to have to deal with when we're documenting historic resources, is that the number used for years as a minimum to determine a property being historic is 50 years. Well, think what was 50 years ago now. We are now looking at structures built in the post-war years, in the 50s and the 60s and the 70s, and trying to determine, are those historic? So as Westchester or other municipalities moves forward with tools like this and suddenly discover that that 1958 housing tract, largely intact, is now considered historic, it provides a tool to help facilitate those discussions.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thanks for all your work.
Appreciate coming before you. Thank you so much.
Questions?
Aaron Fluck, Director for Building and Housing for Borough of Westchester. Just to answer your question as to what use this would be, your building codes, both IBC and IRC, require certain specific requirements if you have a historic registered, either with the state or the national level. If it is a contributing factor to a historic property or to a historic district, those also would have some impact in this regard. In your planning and development and figuring out ordinances, I will tell you there is one ordinance right now in Planning Commission called the Preservation Ordinance, Historic Preservation Ordinance, which would allow for certain types of building that would mimic historically accurate properties such as this. That's where this is going to come in more than anything else. Also, if you are going to be doing events such that as would lead a historic tour or something like that of influence, or you're doing a Juneteenth celebration that may have a historic impact on the Underground Railroad or anything else like that, or if you're doing a semi-quincentennial, I'm not sure I got that right, but our upcoming birthday at 250 years, those types of things, this would be more of an advantageous thing than you would see into we actually have some stuff that does have the student rental that is similar to this, but it's separate.
Thank you for that clarification. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Great, we're going to move on to old business. A, motion to approve the September 16th and 17th, 2025 Borough Council meeting minutes.
So moved.
Okay, sounds like we can move that to consent, please. And move on to a motion to approve the 2026 preliminary budget.
I will be brief. We have a few more things to get through on tonight's agenda, but raise your hand if you're here to talk about College Arms University stuff. Okay, we're going to get to that. Library people are still here. We have people from Good Fellowship Ambulance Company, people for 210, 214 West Washington Street right in the back, correct? I saw some. Got it. Okay. So we're going to move quickly through our business. We'll get to that, but I want to take some time to talk about our budget because I have good news. I should take vacations more often because a month ago I came here and told you there was a 10% wide gap in our general fund and I didn't know how we were going to close it. What we need to do tonight is pass a motion to approve a preliminary budget, the one that was posted to the website on Friday, and schedule a public hearing, if you don't mind amending that, the motion on tonight's agenda, schedule a public hearing for our business meeting night in November, so we can stay in accordance with our own home rule charter and our timing guidelines. Although the budget published has no tax increase in it, that's great, and we're going to go over some things that are in it. The budget is not complete. We still have some work to do. I'm going to go over that, and I'm kind of stretching time here to give Bill enough time to put up the budget presentation. I emailed him earlier. It's only 7 slides, don't worry. Some highlights for the library folks in attendance. The 0.15 millage is there, which is going to generate roughly anywhere from 110 to 115 in a year, depending on collections. When you budget a millage rate, you make an assumption of how much money it's going to generate, and then how much money it actually generates depends on who pays their taxes and who pays in the discount period or who pays in the penalty. So we just got to figure that out as we go along. There's also $15,000 in the budget under Public Works for maintenance of the library building. The borough pays library utilities as well. And the $150,000 is budgeted in the Public Works line for the estimate for the, we call it a roof, but it's like a roof and a floor at the same time. So I've been down in that section of the stacks and I have seen the water intrusion. So, but I have not yet read Mr. Cherry's reports. How did we close this wide gap? Well, we took a really hard look at capital expenditures and we deferred things that were not grant funded as much as we could. If it has grant funding, we made sure it was in next year's budget. If it doesn't have grant funding, we asked people to think hard and long about that. There are some things we have to spend money on here at the borough that cannot be grant funded. There's very few grant dollars out there for vehicles. There's very few grant dollars out there for typical operations. I can't go find grant money to replace the carpet in this room, for instance. But we can go out and find grant money for streets and infrastructure improvement. I'm going to talk a little bit about this in my presentation. We've been able to fund the capital program really $2 to 1 with grants from outside sources. So I'm really pleased with how we've been able to do that. Could you go back to the first one, Bill? Yeah, this was review. It's from my earlier presentation. What do we do here? We're a 135-person organization, but I just wanted to reemphasize a way I talk about this tonight in public safety, services, and infrastructure. Those are the 3 main things we do here at the borough. And we're going to talk about those categories and what those influences are on our revenue needs. So going forward to the next one, please. Currently, there's an 8.09 mil tax rate for property taxes. We can only tax taxable property in the borough. Our friends from Westchester University are here. I'm not going to pick on you guys all the time, but just know that only 2/3 of the borough's property is taxable. 1/3 of the borough's property is either owned by the Commonwealth or the county or other types of nonprofits like churches, where if we raise the property tax, that doesn't change because they're not paying property tax anyway. Our taxable assessment as of a week ago was that very large number there, and it generates that revenue for general purposes, debt, and library. That 0.15 reflects the library millage, and that estimate there includes a 98.2% collection rate, which is about what we figure we get when we put a tax rate at. That doesn't mean 1.8% of people aren't paying their taxes. It means a lot of people are paying their taxes in a discount. You get a 2% discount when you pay your taxes by what date? April something? April 15th. Who needs Google when you have Barbara Leonti? So we can go on to the next slide. And what I did was I looked through all of our things we do with the money for the general fund and the budget. And I divided it into those public safety, services, and capital program. And I netted out all of the things we get with fees and grants. The borough needs to find $17.5 million a year through transfers, through cash, and through taxes to fund operations and its capital program. A large part of that, lion's share of that, is public safety. And the lion's share of the public safety are police services. I've netted out on that police number of 8.9 million, I've netted out the money we get from East Bradford Township for providing them police services, as well as all of the fees that the police generate through restitution and ordinance violations and overtime reimbursements and so forth. I just want everyone to appreciate that we have basically a police department attached to an entire borough operation. It's almost right hand, left hand if you're just going to look at it financially. And the reason that 5% infrastructure is such a small piece of the pie isn't because we aren't doing enough. It's because we're able to go out and find $2 for every dollar that we spend on that capital line item. We have a capital program that's north of $3 million, and it's only costing taxpayers $1 million to do that. We're getting the rest of the money from the state, which honestly is taxpayers as well, but it's more collected that way. If you're a real number nerd, you're probably looking at services and going, what's going on there in building and housing? One of the things we have to do is look again hard at our rental license fee increase, because I'm not comfortable with giving you a budget that says the building and housing department makes money. That's not okay. The idea there is that revenue generated by that department should basically balance with the expenses of that department. And we're pretty close. That's $1 million department. So to be off by 67,000 at this stage of the game is not too bad. So if we go on to the next slide, where do we find that money from? I'm trying to boil this down into the smallest pieces for you all to attach to grab onto, where we get the money from to pay for these things. This is basically it, these 9 things. There's transfers that come from parking, sewer, and other post-employment benefits. We have other post-employment benefit, that's a mouthful, fund that's, what about like 1.4 million, 1.5 million. It's earning 4.5% interest. It's generating revenue. We're taking some of that money back to help pay for post-employment benefits. What are post-employment benefits? I'm talking about the healthcare benefits that are promised to retired police officers. After they retire, they can collect post-retirement medical benefits up until they are eligible for Medicare. And we're withdrawing from that fund to help fund some of those things. We're also putting money back in. That's why I said it was a net. The parking fund transfer, this budget works, this borough works and runs on parking revenue. That's why I keep talking. I saw John O'Brien earlier, and he's doing a great job leading the Transportation Advisory Committee. This borough doesn't work if it's not popular. This borough doesn't work if there aren't people coming in and spending $1.50 an hour to park here. We sell 3 lifetimes worth of parking per hours, if you think of it that way, every year. We transfer about 2.2 million to the general fund, and that's increasing at a 4% rate year over year. And how do we do that? We have to keep becoming more popular, more populous. We have to invest in our downtown. We have to invest in things like better street closure infrastructure and crosswalks and all the things that make downtown and the ward, mostly the Sixth Ward, such a great place to be. The sewer fund transfer is to fund, the sewer fund and the general fund are intermingled. We do a lot of support work for sewer type activity, and that's what that $600,000 reflects. The parking fund is just basically a profit skimming profit off, putting it into the general fund to make it work. Reserves, you can dip into cash to make your budget a whole. Knowing where we're at right about now, I could probably just tell you, use the cash that you've built up over the last 4 years to close the budget and call it a day. You could do that. However, Bernie's shaking his head because I think where you and I think our common ground is that you have to have the right amount of revenue coming in on an annual basis. You can't eat your own arm to feed your belly, right? So, but just keep in mind, there's something north of 9 million in our capital operating reserve. There's about 3 million cash right now. That's all earning interest. We don't have to do a darn thing to earn interest on money. We just got to properly invest it and make sure we can account for it. And that generates revenue. So why not use some of that? That's where I'm coming from. And then the last thing, and I used red on purpose because everybody hates this word, taxes. I've said this over and over again. As long as I'm here, I'll say that there's a structural disconnect between how our ability to raise money organically grows and how our expenses organically grows. And it's about in the neighborhood of $200,000 a year. There's always a widening gap in the general fund of about $200,000 a year. Our tax base, that big number I showed you before of 781 million, that only grows on average about 1% per year. Earned income tax is a really great thing because you don't have to do anything to the earned income tax rate for it to grow. It's growing grew a lot in the last 4 or 5 years. We've budgeted a 3% increase year over year this year because it's started to cool off a little bit. But when you get more residents in town, that's people who are paying EIT that didn't before. And as long as employment stays buoyant in the larger economy, the raises people get at their jobs feed back into earned income tax at the local levels. And non-resident EIT is paid by the municipality where they work in. So most of your borough employees actually don't live in the borough. So we're paying EIT in our municipalities where we reside. And similarly, people who work elsewhere and who live in the borough are paying resident EIT to the borough. Local services tax always comes up this time of year. Can we do something about that? That's a tax dedicated to emergency medical service, police and fire. It's capped at $52. It's a payroll tax. So 700,000 has been a really reliable estimate on that. Real estate transfer tax has been going up as property values go up, but it's slowed down with rising mortgage rates. And we're predicting it to be a little bit better than last year, but not a lot. This isn't the crazy go get a home mortgage for 2.25% climate anymore. I think, well, someone said 6 3/4 now or something like that. We have some mortgage experts in the room. And lastly, business privilege tax, which I won't get into because that has been kind of frozen in time as to what you can do. So don't expect any growth there. So what are you left with? Cash transfers and the property tax. And every municipality wrestles with this question this time of year. What's left for us to do outside of paying very close attention to how we raise our money, spend our money, and manage our money? We're really left with very few knobs on the box to control where we're going to get more money. And as long as we make decisions around wanting to provide the same high level of service, as long as we want to have the best police department in Chester County with 44 officers and in its own dispatch, as long as we want to keep making those decisions, we got to find the money to pay for those things. And sometimes I'm the bearer of bad news in that regard, but that's just the facts. And I think that we're doing pretty well in terms of how we've managed property tax increases over the last 5 years. In 2021, after a long, nearly 10-year run of not raising taxes, they were raised 6.33%. Again, in 2022, 4%. We took a break in 2023, and then in 2024, they were raised 5%. In 2025, they were not raised again, which I think is more typical of the pattern you're going to find every other year or every third year raising taxes something less than 5%. And go to the next slide. What we didn't talk about, and this is my segue to invite Executive Director of Good Fellowship to speak a little bit, was the budget. The preliminary budget does not have in it right now the extra ask from Good Fellowship. The extra meaning the difference between what we had budgeted last year and what they had presented as their budget number, which is 298,214, an increase of 130,704. And under our current total taxable property in the borough right now, council would have to pass an ordinance adding 0.17 mils to the total to account for that. And it's funny, one of these days I'm going to meet the owner of this property because I keep using this picture and I don't know whose property it is. But it is the median value property in the borough. It is on Dean Street, by the way. And the median assessed values as one don't, that's not what you can buy it for today, by the way. That's the assessed value. The current property tax there is a little over $1,400, and the 2.1% increase would add $21 a year to that property tax bill. And then, do I have any more slides, Bill? I don't know if I do. That might be it. This is the final one. And before I hand it off to you, Chaz, we are still working to reduce or eliminate a property tax increase. I have to look again really hard at the rental license fee increase to make sure it can be defended. Should we be challenged on that? I still want to see a little more information, and I want to make sure that our administrative processes on the inside can support that. I got schooled by your solicitor on that. Thank you very much. And I listen when Kristen tells me to do things. We need to find funding for the additional GFAC request. Something you heard tonight, better long-term planning for library capital maintenance and expenses. So we know what those are going to be down the road, so we can start planning for them so that we can understand, what's coming. We're going to go back and think. I could stand up here for hours and talk to you about every line item. Not going to do that, but we will do that on our own time, the administration. We're going to tinker and tune every revenue and expense line item in the entire budget one more time. And present to you a list of changes when we meet again in November. And we're going to offer office hours again to any member of council and the mayor who want to talk details of budget, early evening, virtual, in person, whatever you want.
Well, and your team's been fantastic so far. I mean,
Yeah.
they've been very.
Thanks for saying that.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are fantastic. Appreciate them. And we'll bring some revisions to your attention in November to the budget. And I'm happy to answer any questions. Maybe the thing to do would be to, if that's okay with you, Mr. President,
Please.
invite you to say some things. Thank you.
Good evening, Council. Chaz Bergen, I'm the Executive Director from Good Fellowship Ambulance. I just want to acknowledge our Board President, Don Verdiani, Vice President, Adam Knox, and two of our senior leadership, our Director of Operations, Justin Robbins, and Director of Administration, April Locke, are here as well. So feel free to put them on the spot with questions as well. So, this is a slimmed down version of the presentation that was given to Public Safety. I do want to be respectful of time, but Mr. Flynn had asked me to appear tonight and answer some questions, and we're happy to do that. So just to recap, again, Good Fellowship provides two services, advanced life support and basic life support to the entire borough.
Could you use the mic, please?
Yep. Our funding formula is based on population and mileage. The population is pretty standard. We get that from a single source across the board for all municipalities. Your call volumes are analyzed on a 12-month period. So the volume we're using for 2026 is 2,281 dispatches. I just want to point out the increase that we've seen there over the last 4 years, 31% there. Westchester Borough's call volume has jumped percentage-wise the highest of all the other municipalities. This is our full budget next year. Our draft form is a total of 6.2 million. That does include depreciation. That is how we fund our capital. Outside of that, what we expect to receive from billing revenues, billing insurances, Medicare, Medicaid, I can talk for hours on that. And then the operating loss that we're left with that we have to try to make up every year. This has been the pain point for the last 4 or 5 years, really post-pandemic, is this operating loss is growing tremendously every year. So the chart you see is how we are planning to make this up next year. A large part of this is a significant increase in municipal funding, the need, as well as fundraising. Go back one more, Bill, I'm sorry. Certainly grants, the annual subscriptions, which are coming soon, check your mailboxes, donations, and then our EMS training center actually generates revenue back into office and loss from 911. Next slide. Just to highlight some of our capital needs there. This is one of the issues which I'll talk about is that the vehicles and equipment pricing is crazy. It's jumping 10, 15, 20% every year since the pandemic. That's been a big challenge. So we are in a contract for this vehicle. We have to order them about 2-3 years out. So we've already agreed to this vehicle, to pay for this vehicle 2 years ago. We're going to see it in Q1 here. And some other building stuff there that we need to do. And we are deferring a lot of stuff, looking for grant opportunities as well. So kind of the same story for every organization in the borough, right? Salaries and benefits are definitely our #1 jump year over year. Post-pandemic, healthcare as a whole saw a mass exodus. EMS was not left out of that. So we have seen tremendous increases in our salaries to really retain the talented professionals we have here providing quality service. Vehicles, medical equipment I discussed. Insurance has been the big surprise as well. A lot of carriers are getting out of the fire and EMS space because of the risk that we pose. So that's limiting the pool that's willing to insure us and driving insurance rates up, unfortunately. So how did we get here? All of our municipalities are seeing an average of 63% across the board. So obviously the deficit, which I've discussed. One thing I want to point out here was we did have a significant donor that was a foundation locally that concluded their efforts last year. They were buying vehicles, equipment to the tune of $350,000 last year. They concluded their efforts at the end of 2024, unfortunately. So that's also contributing to this big jump here. We did not expect that, but they made a $350,000 donation to us last year, and then that is the end of the foundation. So some of the stuff we've done to trim. So this is over years here. We've cut everything we can as much as possible to make us as efficient as possible. We've outsourced a lot of stuff. Again, I talked about the loans we use this year to fill the gap in 2025's budget, and a ton of advocacy as well, statewide on the national level, try to improve some reimbursements from insurance companies. Next slide there, Bill. Back one. No, keep going, sorry. So the service agreement, there's 2 asks. It's really the budget increase, but we're also seeking an updated municipal funding contract from the borough. Today, Westchester Borough is in agreement with Good Fellowship. We are looking to replace that agreement with a new one that's updated. Several reasons in there. Some of it was around the wording of how the borough's amount gets determined, a 50-50 split on our deficit. Again, the deficit has grown so large, we don't have an ability to fundraise 50% of it anymore. We need more support now, and that's really the big update in the funding contract. We did identify there's a discrepancy here in the amount and the percentage. The 2025 budget for the borough does not have the correct number in it. It's off by about $6,000 or $7,000. We'll figure out how that happened, but the contracted amount for 2025, this is the actual percentage increase and dollar amount over for 2026 that we are looking for. Next slide. Again, you're in a formula that shares the cost here with 8 other municipalities now. The formula looks at population and dispatch call volume. You guys are the largest consumer call volume wise and have a high population. So therefore, the number is the highest in Westchester Borough here. Next slide. So cut off the bottom there. I apologize. It's a big screen here. So I show this just for perspective here. Earlier this year, myself and some colleagues of mine across the county did this study countywide. to really try to get an understanding of where the county is with EMS funding. So where we are right now in 2025, the average is $172 per dispatch. Westchester Borough today is at $80. So a relatively low cost across the board. And that's because of the efficiencies of Good Fellowship. You're part of a large regional system, the largest system in Chester County, you and the 9 other municipalities. Go to the next slide there. When we just plug in, I'm sorry, next slide. Yep. When we just plug in the updated 2026 number, this is where it takes the borough. So still far below the average countywide. And we will do this again in 2026, which will raise that average number again across 73 other municipalities. So again, I show that for perspective. We are a relatively low cost EMS provider compared to the rest of the county. I think that is my last slide. I'm happy to answer any questions you have though.
I think you had at some point a breakdown of within the borough.
You want to
We
share
missed that?
sheet? Yeah, the mayor had asked for some information at the last public safety meeting, which I can show here. The update that the mayor had asked for was to put a dollar amount share based off these percentages, which we added. So really, we tried to categorize those 2,281 calls as best we could. Most of them are self-explanatory. The roadways, sidewalks is kind of the catch-all. Those are calls on sidewalks and roadways, not really associated with a physical address in the borough. Inside of that, there's alcohol overdoses, behavioral health, trips and falls, different stuff like that that's not at a physical address. So again, happy to answer any questions on this as well. I think this was good data and I appreciate you asking for it. So
for the top 6, just for everyone's knowledge, are non-taxable facilities. Council, any comments or questions?
No, well, I do have a couple comments, and I did share this with all of you on council, as well as Mr. Metrick, Ms. Ramsey, and Ms. Leonti. And I do support an EMS tax, so long as we can do it. Ms. Camp, other townships have done it. Count Township has done it. Downingtown just recently adopted one as well. So I do think that that would help alleviate a lot of your concerns and our concerns moving forward, because we would have a steady stream of income. And I don't know anyone who would be against that. I believe that public safety is paramount. And that's what we should do and look forward to implementing next year. The other items, sorry, Mr. Anderson, I don't think we need a dump truck. I love you, but I don't think we need a dump truck. I think we could cut that out of the budget and fully fund this budget without a tax increase for this year. But we should be looking at an EMS tax for years to come. Maybe a little bit slightly higher, that millage rate. I sent you an email, what we can do. Let's make sure those assumptions are right, because I do think that that would be beneficial. That could be part of the property tax and people could write that off as well. So that's where I'm coming from to you guys, fully support you guys.
thank you.
Because we need you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McCoy. Chaz, it's always good to see you.
Great to see you.
And I'm glad I challenged you to come up with a good scenario so we could actually see the biggest users that pay nothing. And it drains the coffers of the borough. I know our main function is police and fire. That's in our charter. Unfortunately, the Cadillacs that used to run the fire departments no longer do that. So you guys had to start your own EMS stuff to make sure we get to the hospital in time. Fully support what you guys do. When you're here long enough, I've seen, we started at 100,000 when I had brown hair. Now I got white hair. You've given it to me, thank you. Now it's 300,000. But you know, times have changed.
Yep.
Yeah, so I understand that. This past week, we spent a lot of time on emails. Everybody trying to figure out how we can fund you. We spent more time on you than we did the budget.
I
Because
appreciate
we
that.
realize how important it is to make sure our citizens are safe.
Yeah.
Okay. To Mr. McGinnis's point, I asked, public safety, and Mr. Dorsey agreed to it, to have the borough put together a small committee to go around to the nonprofits and start to talk to the nonprofits to see if they can start contributing something. Our friends at Barclay are the only ones who do it. And I'm going to give them a kudos. Every year they show up and they give us a gift every year. None of the ones on that page do anything to offset what you do. My proposal is similar to Mr. McGinnis's that I've circulated. We need $374,000. I roughly took a 5,000 parcel residents in the borough. I calculated that out roughly about $75 per house. Now times 5,000, and that funds you guys a little bit more. So we start to have money in the fund. So we're not always chasing things. No, we don't like taxes. No one likes taxes. But unfortunately, the $52 that the maximum that we're allowed to have, I ask Mr. Metric every year, can't we do something about the $52? And he starts every year off with me, Mr. Flynn, we can't raise it $52. But we need to, like I said, to the library, we need to start thinking a little bit differently than we've done in the past. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. The other townships have already done it. We invented the rule for plastic bags and straws, and Mr. Williams did a great job with that. And it's a very successful fund that we're doing in downtown, okay, protecting the environment. We can copy what they've done in Callan and Downingtown. And I believe that's something council should strongly consider. It's a flat, basically a flat tax that everybody participates in. So hopefully we can come up with a funding source that makes sense.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Council. Any public comments, questions?
Ann Carroll, 506 South Franklin Street. And just a question, couple questions. Is there any consideration given to the fact that the borough is in proximity to the ambulance club and the borough is in proximity to a major hospital? Whereas on other townships and municipalities, there is a travel time, et cetera. So is there any breakdown about time on call that would give us some kind of a benefit for the tax exempt existence of the club itself and of the hospital where we're transporting to? So if you're picking somebody up in the far reaches of, West Goshen, you're traveling. So can you answer?
Sure. So back to that municipal funding study again, our cost, do you want to answer it? So our cost per dispatch is relatively low. That's one of the reasons. So, an ambulance coming from West Callan Township is going to be way more expensive than ours because of that reason. They're going to replace their vehicles way more often, more fuel, more supplies. So that is really the benefit the borough gets, is we have the hospital here, which keeps our costs low. From an efficiency standpoint, we use what's called unit hour utilization. It's a formula. We have one of the lowest UHUs in the county because our average call is only about 45 minutes. Countywide, that can be 2 or 3 hours for a lot of agencies. So in 45 minutes, we can handle one call. They have to take 3 hours to handle their call. So for the same amount of reimbursement from insurance companies is really the issue. So hopefully that answered that.
Sort of, kind of, yes.
Okay.
Thanks. And my second question is, with the campus showing 8.5% of our share of this, and if we're talking about taxes, that won't cover that because they're non-taxable. And I would suspect that some of the slip and falls also belong there, whether they're actually campus residents or non-campus residents. We know for a fact that that's happens a lot. Was there any effort to contact the university foundation for a value that would offset our value, in addition to contacting the other nonprofits to see if they would contribute something that could offset what the taxpayers are going to have to pick up?
So I believe Good Fellowship has contacted some of them on their own. And then that's where it came up in public safety. And we have talked, we have started some conversation as well with the university at this point in time.
I think it would be helpful for the taxpayers to know how those conversations turn out. Because I, for one, as a resident of the borough, contribute to the ambulance club. I contribute to every one of the fire stations. So that's easily $250 a year that comes out of my pocket and checkbook that is going to these. And I imagine there are many of us who, I hope there are many of us who do the same thing. Therefore, I think it's incumbent upon council, if you're going to ask us to pay more in taxes, and I support the effort, but I think that it has to be shared around. Thank you.
I can just add one thing to that too. If council is going to consider a tax, the public education is really important. That a huge piece of that chart I showed you still relies on donations and annual subscriptions. So a tax would not replace that at all. We still have a huge gap to make up with that. And I would ask you, implore you, as part of the public education around this, donations, annual subscriptions are still really, really important to help fund our operation. So it would not replace that piece of our fundraising. Okay.
Thank you very much. Mr. Metrick, do you want to wrap up the
Thank you.
budget discussion with, after Chaz's comments? Okay. Any more comments about preliminary budget?
No, make a motion to approve.
But we don't have we have one little item missing. on
Oh.
this.
Let's,
So,
Mr. McCoy,
yeah,
I think we need to put EMS on tomorrow night to come up with some kind of program that we have to decide how we're going to help fund something, because it's, Mr. Metrick's basically looking for assistance. Even if the university gives 25,000, that's nowhere near 300,000. If we get 18,000 from behavioral health, that's nowhere near 300,000. We have to, it's up to council for us to decide how we're going to fund this thing. And Mr. McGinnis has imperial data, and I had a wish list, but it's something we should discuss.
so we'll move the preliminary budget discussion item for voting session tomorrow.
Yeah, and I just do want to make sure I recall properly, in the budget right now too, you have not just the 15,000 that was the need for the library, but you have, or the 25, it was 25 in total. You have 150,000 in the budget right now for the roof.
It's 150,000, yeah, for the improvement on the roof there.
Under the CapEx.
it's 115.
I thought he said.
And
it
then
was
plus, and then it's
150 in
plus
public
whatever we
works.
give them.
Ms. Leonti, maybe you could come up and tell us what we have in here.
So right now in the 2026 budget, we have $115,000 in the capital expense for the library patio roof replacement. And then we have $110,000 in their annual allocation from the millage rate, and then $15,000 in public works for the maintenance.
Under Public Works, there's another 130 for repair, maintenance buildings that are all the buildings except the library, correct?
Yeah, there's actually a separate line for library maintenance.
Right. I just wanted to make sure that there
Yeah.
wasn't any additional.
No, there's nothing in
for
that line item.
Okay. And then under the CapEx is where the
115
the 115 is. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. And right now, the preliminary budget has 0 for GFAC increase of the additional.
Yeah, right now it's at 167,510, I believe is the
Correct.
number.
And then as, you mentioned, the dump truck
That was,
could be something we could
that was my question.
eliminate. So we would have that discussion tomorrow evening.
Okay, thank you.
Everyone agree?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. All right, we'll move on to new business. Administration, Communication and Technology. Mr. Travis, take it away.
Yes. So the first item here is discussing special event procedures. We've gone around on this for a number of months at this point. It kind of started when we were talking about the Christmas parade and how we would contribute to or support the Christmas parade, considering that they had sort of a moving target and we wanted to land on something permanent for them. So this discussion was actually kind of on the heels of that with other events that we had provided support before in the past. The committee has been discussing, we feel like they're there, but we have not really come with a conclusive list of credentials or criteria that would define which events we would support and which we would not. And it's been kind of a challenging conversation because there's people on both sides, and it's a slippery slope if we try to start, figuring out a sliding scale of who gets what in terms of dollars. So where we kind of landed, kind of pretty late in this process was, if the event is not a Westchester Borough event, in other words, it's not put on by Parks and Rec, and there aren't very many of them. You could say there are a few races. There's Chili Cook-Off, which was actually postponed. There's a few that are attached to the bid. So if the event is not a Westchester event and it's not organized and managed by Publix and our Parks and Rec, that would be one criteria that we could consider. It's not ours. And then the other piece to that would be if the event meets the criteria for charging a special event parking fee, so this $20 parking fee, which already has some criteria attached to it, right? We shut down roads, there's no street parking, it's in town center, it brings a lot of traffic in, so we've talked about volume of events in terms of the number of people that would be attending. So if we charge a parking fee because of those reasons, then that may be the easiest way to kind of think about it. So it's just two things. It's the event's not ours, but we're charging a $20 parking fee for this event because of its size, and due to the size of the number of attendees and the number of vehicles that would park in garages and flat lots, we would be collecting a fee. Some of these events take place, or most of them, I think that we're talking to take place on Sundays where we already don't charge parking, $0. So by bringing a bunch of people in, we're getting revenue that we wouldn't have otherwise. So I'm just going to use the example of the Chili Cook-Off. That this is the one that I think would be the obvious one that we would probably say it may fit those two criteria. It's not ours. We charge them an event fee, so it helps offset some of the costs that we would incur for the event, but also brings in revenue that we otherwise wouldn't have. So as of now, that would be the one that we would think of, but it would leave room for something else to come maybe into the future, like a winter carnival, for instance. I lived in a town that would shut down all the streets, and we would have a big public event, and it would be open to everybody. So something like that, for instance. So that was really it. Those are the two things that we landed on. We felt that probably the simplest solution would be the most obvious if we were actually going to do this. However, I know that not everybody agrees with this recommendation. So if we can't come to an agreement on the idea of whether or not we should support, I think we'd come to an impasse, and I would make a motion to table this indefinitely.
All right, council comments?
I just want to ask a question for clarity, Because what I see a lot of the times in like the summer, you know, there's these running races that kind of there's the Westchester Loop, and they've got a handful of, you know, a couple hundred maybe people. Where does that fit into this? Does that, no, that doesn't close off street and charge
doesn't-
$20 parking?
We're not charging a $20 event fee because we're not shutting down the town center.
I was, okay,
So
because
it
I
all-
wasn't sure because
it automatically
shut
knocks
down
it
like
out.
Church Street or something.
No, it automatically gets knocked out just because of the size and the complexity of it. It's not requiring a lot of services, so on and so forth. So that would be an example of something that we get knocked out of this. Porch Fest would be another one because it doesn't bring a lot of people into town center. We're not shutting off main roads where people are parking. We're not filling up garages. We're not charging an event fee. So like I said before, the only one that I think would actually get in right now would be the chili cook-off right now, but it would leave room for something else to come along in the future.
I just want to clarify that the definition in parking is all about town center. And so we're sort of piggybacking off of that to create this. This is, but then we need, for the parking, we're going to charge for the events that the borough does put on. So restaurant festival. But we need to clarify in this that we are not funding the restaurant festival with this money. We're funding those other events that are being brought to us by these
We're
other.
not paying ourselves back, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
We're not doing that.
Yeah, I think that's pretty, yeah.
Ourselves
that's
back.
Understandable.
The other piece to this, and it's contingent, there's a dependency here there's another item on the agenda tonight under the parking committee would be, what would we support? Like, what would be the amount that we would support? And I think that's coming later in the park committee. So it's kind of, it's not just intrinsically attached to parking, but there's actually a dependency here on this policy of, is it our event or is it somebody else's event? So if it's somebody else's event, it might qualify. If we're charging a special event parking fee, it would qualify. But the question still is, what is the support that we're getting? And so that recommendation is actually going to happen later in the agenda.
Is there any public comments?
Before we do that, Mr. McCoy, I just want to make sure I understand what Mr. Travis is proposing. It's a non-borough event, right? It's a non-borough event. It occurs downtown and requires the downtown to be shut down, meaning usage of the garage and surface lots, and that's where we're charging the $20 event fee.
That's correct.
Okay.
The idea here is that, you know, in exchange for some of the recognition, the publicity, perhaps some of the goodwill, like for instance, the chili cook-off is a nonprofit that benefits hunger. We ride on some of that. We benefit from that, at least from the optics aspect of it, you know, reputation and image. So that's the reason why
Yeah.
I want to support it.
And I liked your slippery slope, right? Because those are the words that I've been using since this came up with the Christmas parade. We've still opened sort of the box, right? With funding the Christmas parade up to a certain amount, right? So in addition, well, I don't think they're getting the parking funds, but we said we would provide in-kind services up to, I think it was a maximum of $10,000, right? So we still, in my humble opinion, have to define what qualifies for what the Christmas parade is getting versus other entities that might have a similar or maybe not so similar event, but they're not getting the same benefit.
I had thought we decided the Christmas parade was its own unique event.
We did.
And because of the size, the scope, the amount of public service, police.
Yeah, we said that, but where is the policy for consistency?
Okay, I was going to try to be really quiet and just let this go. I've been annoying John O'Brien mostly for head counts on various events. And I think a head count of 10,000 people or more is what is setting the Christmas parade apart. The restaurant festival was 8,000 this year. It, like, I know it is, but we still need to keep it. I know in looking at the head counts, I think that we think of the restaurant festival as this massive event, but it was only 8,000 people. The Christmas parade is sort of this very condensed. I know everybody up here thinks the Christmas parade is this super special event, and it is, but I see a lot of the events as super special events, and I don't feel like it's this horribly unique thing. I think there's the possibility for other things to be as amazing if we encourage them to be so. And I think that it would be really nice if we had a head count that we required to do in-kind things for. And then a policy that just covers the other things that are in our downtown area and support our local businesses.
And I think that's my point, right? So we are very clear and concise and cannot be accused of favoritism, or my favorite event versus Nicole's favorite event is getting funded. We have to define this. And I appreciate, Brian, wanting to table it, but we sort of opened Pandora's box, and I think have to define what we are and aren't going to do, and what qualifies and what doesn't qualify. I'm not trying to minimize. It's huge, right? It's, we've been talking about it for some time now and haven't come to a clear conclusion.
So is there any public comment or question? What's on the item is to move this to further discussion and act. And so I think that's the appropriate action to take here. All in agreement? Thank you. Okay, next we have a motion to approve a resolution for participation in the Pennsylvania Audubon Society Birdtown Program. Want to kick this off, Mr. Travis?
Yeah, I can. We were approached in ACT committee, basically a lot of the things that we're already currently doing, especially with respect to conservation and in our tree program. We practically already qualify to be known as or have a designation as recognized by the Audubon Society Birdtown Program, but we have some speakers here to probably elaborate on that a lot more. So come on up.
Thank you. Appreciate you being here and giving us a brief overview.
Hi, Connie McAvoy, Borough resident and chair of the Sustainability Advisory Committee, working under our director, Will Williams, in the back. I want to start off by saying that this will cost the borough $100 total forever. And if that's too much, I think we can manage to fundraise for that, because there's a lot of enthusiasm out there already. And basically, I was approached by the PA Birdtown LLC, who said, we think you already have a lot of the characteristics that will make you a bird town. And as soon as we talked, we are a bird town. We just need to be certified as such. And there are various levels. We could increase some of the things that would give us higher recognition. That it's, green, bronze, silver, gold. And we can do some things to improve that. This would require a committee of 3 people. I'm one of those people. You are about to meet the second, and we have a third in mind. And an annual update, which would just certify that we continue to do all of the sustainable practices that will encourage birds to be here. It's not something where we have to prove we have X number of Y birds. It's more about you create a habitat-friendly situation, and there's so many things about the borough that you all know. No pesticides in the parks, all the parks, natural meadows at the landfill stations and also at Hillside Elementary, etc. The one area that I was worried about that we wouldn't cover well is student involvement and education, and here is someone to tell you about that.
So my name, can you hear me okay? Okay. My name is Dr. Jenny Euling, and I'm a professor at Westchester University. And I've been there for 2.5 years or so now, so I'm relatively new, but I actually grew up close by, so I grew up in Springfield, Montco. And my lab focuses on birds, so we study bird behavior, and I've worked with about 10 undergraduates so far doing research in my lab, and I have worked with 3 master's students so far as well. So we're doing research on bird foraging behavior, and breeding behavior. So we use nest boxes to study them around our region. And also one of the things that's been really awesome since I started at Westchester is I've been approached by students actually to start doing bird walks. So we've been doing bird walks mostly in the Gordon Natural area, but we've considered expanding to other locations as well. And it's been really fun because it's not just been students that have been coming, it's also been faculty, staff, and even members of the Westchester community. So I'm really excited to continue doing that. And one thing that we're also very excited to do, hopefully in the future, is start to partner with some local schools to do some outreach in classrooms. So I think that's all I want to say. I'll keep it short.
Right. And I've talked to the superintendent of schools who is excited about this idea and feels a lot may be going on that is under my radar, certainly. And I think he would welcome that attachment to the older students and some professional guidance. And one of the things that Will's excited about is bird walks in our parks and trying to point out the things that we can do here. So any questions? About this?
First of all, I love that you are fashionably, appropriate. You are attracting the birds already inside.
Trying.
Second of all, with the walks and things, Julie, it made me think about the Westchester Community Campus Committee and activities to pull together residents and students and continue to foster those relationships. And so I feel like this would be like a great resource to try to join us together. So I don't know if there's a way to kind of pull,
Right.
we can talk about that another time. Otherwise, I love it. Maybe you guys can help me figure out how to get a hummingbird to my hummingbird feeder at some point and make that more. Yeah, there you go.
Expert.
But
What we're asking for is just that the resolution would be approved by council so that we may apply to get this certification, which we're very confident we will get easily. And then we get free signs. They provide all sorts of stuff for free. They, of course, want donations, as does everybody. But, we can make that happen too. So anyway, any other questions?
Questions or comments? Public questions or comments? Thank you very much.
Okay,
Appreciate it.
well, ready? We right behind us. Go Birds.
Nice ending. Okay, that sounds like we're all agreed to move this to consent. Thank you. Let's move on to the parking committee. Mr. Carr, I don't know if you were here, if you want to lead this.
I can talk through them if you want. First is a motion to amend the parking policy for special events parking in borough parking garages to include a 50% split of parking fees with the applicants. So this is basically moving back to what we had in place before. I asked for this because I want to fund the Chili Fest for this year. Right now, we are taking way too long, and we need to still be funding the event planning. So for now, I think this is an excellent fix to continue supporting the events, and we need to do this. It can stay on for as long as it needs to, but
I am all in favor of going back to the way that we did it with the 50% split. I know there's probably some conflicting opinions up here, but I will have my say and let the rest of council chime in here. Are we going to continue this on again for another month?
I do have a question, just to make sure I'm clear. Is this only like when it's a $20 event parking, or is this anytime we have any kind of event, the parking that we collect on, like, going back to like the small running races or,
No, this is about the events that have the event parking fee. Yes, yes.
Right now, it's only one.
I would, since people are voicing their opinion, I would have to say that what I've said many times, that, that the parking should be the parking, the money raised from parking should be to help offset expenses for the borough. Most people who plan events here in the borough, such as the Chili Fest, since you've used that multiple times as an example. But just like the race we just had, they fundraise, they get their corporate sponsors, they come prepared to have their event. And if they don't, then maybe the event shouldn't be held. I do not think it's our job to help fund other people's events in the borough. I think it's our job to make sure the borough events are funded and well received, and that we are able to continue whatever borough events we have and maybe expand to other borough events. But it's definitely not our job to have events and support events and pay for events and bankroll them however you see fit with parking or any other means to bankroll these events. The only reason that I thought the Christmas parade was different is because it is different, because it is unique, it is the unicorn. However, somehow you've managed to conflate the two. And you've managed to make it seem like they're the same type of event when they certainly are not. So I've said this numerous times. The borough could not put on the type of Christmas parade that we currently have that gets the type of county recognition and support that it does get. Period. And if we, after the next year or two, don't want to continue to support it, the police would have to be out there regardless. But if we don't choose to support it in any way, shape, or form because of all this additional conversation, then let's not support it. Let's not support the Christmas parade if supporting it has caused all this conversation, this useless conversation. Because we should not be supporting every mom and pop that decides they want to have an event in the borough. We should be supporting our borough events. I've said it many times, I'll continue to say it.
Council? Any public comments? And so where does this leave us? Do we continue this to next month discussion, or would someone like to?
Can we take a vote on this
All you
now?
have to do is look at our budget. to
I've
see we
been
have very
funding,
important
using
things
the
to talk
parking
about. And
funding
with
for a
this
solid
important
2
budget-
years.
Please, one person at a time.
I was thinking, with the important things that are going on in our budget, you know, with really important things to support like GFAC and everything else, I don't think we should be talking about spending money for other events. These are tough times.
I have increased the parking fees, so this is not money that we had. There was only one
Right, Mr.
time.
Power speaking now, please.
There was only one time that we had it at 20, and then this council reduced it to 10, and then got very upset when they didn't have enough money to pay for the Christmas parade. That is what happened. I asked for the parking money that was additional money to be used towards these events, and the council agreed. This is not a new policy. This is not something that I'm trying to clean this up so that it is clear and consistent. That's all.
I would agree with clear and consistent. Whether it's $10 or $20, it doesn't matter to me. my only point is that we should keep that money for the borough to help offset expenses. My concern is not whether it's $10 or $20. There is no policy in terms of, there's history in terms of how we use that parking money, but there's no policy. And I think that's the point of this discussion. And again, I'll say, I don't care whether it's $10, $20, or $30. We should keep whatever funds that are garnered from the parking to offset expenses like the police.
Mr. McCoy, I'd like to, sorry, Mr. Flynn. The last discussion, we said we're going to take this back to ACT. I think it's important to define like what we're going to fund, how we're going to fund it, right? Again, we can't pick and choose. We're going to do the chili cook-off, but we're not going to do Christmas parade, but we are going to do, you know, Lisa's lemonade stand on, you know.
Two will ride with one another.
They have to. They're so
Committed.
intertwined.
Okay.
I don't think we can
I
make
just
a
want to
decision.
clarify, the one event that we're talking about is paying for all of their expenses. They get a bill for Public Works, for the police, for all the ancillary expenses that are required. They pay for all of that. They bring a bunch of traffic into the borough, they fill the garages up, and then we keep all the money. I just want to, the optics of that is not great. Chili cook-off, that's what I'm talking about. So there's no offset. It's revenue that we would not get on a Sunday. That we do get some other benefits that I mentioned.
I don't think anyone is
Recognition, publicity,
Yeah.
So listen,
possibly some goodwill.
if we take it back to committee, we can always put in there a retro for the cook-off, if that's what the decision is made once we get this policy. So if we need one more month to get it tightened up so that everybody feels comfortable with what it's saying, you can always put a rider on it to retro it for the cook-off. If that's, you know, if you want to make sure that you're covering those guys.
So I asked this to be done because of the chili cook-off and not in perpetuity this year so that we can help them this year the way we have for the past 2 years. I'm not asking for a new policy. I'm asking to return our old policy.
What I will try to comfort you with is when we made the decision earlier to change all of our fees and reduce quite a few of them, Barb did an analysis, I believe it was even on the chili cook-off specifically, that showed that by changing our fees and lowering them, they were actually ending up equivalent to what we were charging with the discount. It was kind of like we went from Macy's high-low pricing to everyday low pricing, right? So in essence, the charges were going to be equivalent to what we were doing. We were just taking away the negotiation.
But
So-
that also included the 50% revenue sharing, which is why I was not at that meeting, which is why this came back up, because I did not realize that that fee change in last November when we talked about this, it also included the 50% sharing of the garage revenue. So that's why I asked to go back to that once I spoke to Barb about it, because I didn't want council, we didn't want council to have to rate and decide who was going to get funding or not. So that whole fee change, right? That was contingent or in partnership with the 50% sharing.
Set up the 50% sharing with Ramsey years ago. I'm asking, I'm actually not in love with this plan. It's just a Band-Aid because we're moving so slowly on really putting in to a policy. This is the policy that has been enacted for some time. This is not a new request. I'm asking you to just take 2 steps back and wait.
If we take this back to committee next month, I would hope that we could commit to getting it done before 3 of us leave, and you leave it to the next 6 months for the new council.
Can I just say, we've put this before council twice now and it's gone back to committee and I'm not sure what else to change. It's either, do you want to do this or not? I think at this point.
We're out of options in committee. We've exhausted it all.
I haven't written the actual policy.
Correct.
Under ACT, so that needs to be finalized.
All right, so, yeah.
My question is, were the Was the chili cook-off, the people that run the chili cook-off, were they expecting this revenue share?
Yes, they were.
So then we can't go back retroactively and do that.
How were they expecting it?
Because it's been in place for years.
In place when the Rotary ran it for all those years?
It
They've
was
only run it for 2 years.
in place before the current people were operating it. Before they started operating.
This is only the second year for the new organization, correct?
So we'll
And
codify
actually,
it.
it was the last 2 years it's been, they're building back because they've lowered their footprint. They've lowered their footprint. It's not been as big as when the Rotary, Westchester Rotary did the chili cook-off. It's a smaller event, intentionally so, because they have a new sponsor and new people. So yes, I don't know that we've discussed it when Rotary ran it. The people that run it now are private, nonprofit company. I'm not saying they shouldn't get anything. That's not really my point here, because we do support it in other ways, like some of us have judged it for many years. But the point is that if we get a policy, fine. But I will say, and I will continue to say, we should keep all the funds from parking to help cover expenses when we have all these outside people coming, using resources, parking, police, public.
I'm just
works.
going to reiterate that they are paying for all those services. They are paying for them. They're not using them. They actually pay for them in full.
At reduced rate, because.
No, it is not a reduced rate.
No, I mean, the police reduce their rates, so the rates are reduced
They-
from.
No, they
February.
are overtime rates that we're paying for the police that the organizers pay for.
They,
we
the police
re-
have
we-
a set.
Again,
rate.
one person at a time.
We
please.
did review this, I believe, with Barb, and those rates did come down slightly.
Right.
But that was based upon an overall adjustment going across the board, from what I remember.
Exactly.
So no one's really getting a perceived discount or rate reduction per se. It's just what that formula Barb came up with is across the board. And listen, we debated this for too long. We either vote on it or we don't. And it's an up or down vote. There's 7 people up here. I'll make a motion to amend the parking policy.
There's the wrong meeting, Mr. McGinnis.
Well,
Mr. McGinnis and Mr. McCoy, we've done a lot of what we're going to do with this thing. I recommend that we put it on discussion for tomorrow night. We do an up and down vote.
I can live with that.
I mean,
There are 2 criteria. We can talk about them. I can write them up. We can codify it, but it's
Yeah.
just the 2 pieces that I mentioned earlier in Act.
Well, that's policy and act, and then there is the parking fee. I mean, they are
This is
2
simply
separate
parking.
issues. So let's keep them separate.
On discussion for tomorrow night, Mr. McCoy, please.
Okay, we'll move that to.
Should we move on?
Yes.
I have one to ask before we move on. I'm sorry. Mr. Travis, it's a big ask of you to document, right? So we have something to review tomorrow and it'll be clear what we're voting on, yes or no.
It's the 2 pieces I mentioned tonight. I'll put it in writing and then we'll look at it and we'll be able to react to it. And it's super simple. Like I said, the easiest.
That's not what we're voting on tomorrow
Wait, are
for
you-
this,
yeah.
though.
Are you suggesting that we also take number 1?
I think we,
And please, one person at a time.
Is for Mr. Travis to document the criteria, right? And then these 2 conversations are done. Like we're either for it or against it. Everyone gets to vote their desire
What
for
does
how
Mr.
we're moving
Travis have
forward.
to do with this parking policy?
As I said before, these 2 are tied together, right?
This is not tied to Mr. Travis's, to the Act Committee at all. Not at all. This policy has been in place for years. I'm asking to return to the old policy.
In my opinion, they are. We're talking about events.
This
and
hasn't been
parking
tied.
fees
Please,
for events.
one person.
I had one ask for Mr.
Please.
Travis. I think he agreed, and we should be able to move on.
I'm only asking to pause here for a minute to clarify that I'm actually asking you to go back to what you voted for and what we had in place for years. And this has literally nothing to do with the Acts Committee's definition. Nothing.
We have two items. One is on the act. Mr. Travis has agreed to create some language to create the policy. That will be one discussion item tomorrow. To agree to that policy. Number two is under the parking committee, whether we're going to amend the policy to do the 50% split, period. Both of them are on discussion tomorrow night. And unless there's any public comment, we're going to move on.
So we're moving act number one in public discussion instead of on consent.
Act number one was to table that back to act, so now it's going to discussion. Yeah. Along with parking.
Correct.
Separate discussion.
Okay, we're going to move on. Number
Okay.
two.
This is a motion to approve the contract with the Butts Ticket System Park Mobile for on-street parking and lot payment services. This is going to get us Park Mobile, so I'm super excited. Okay. Recommendation was 2-0. Are we good for that? Because I'm really.
Council, any public comment? Okay, thank you.
A motion to approve the contract. It's for the garage reservation. I got confused there. Motion to approve the contract with Butts Ticket System Park Mobile for garage reservation and parking services. This is great because it also has a like a reservation option included in it. So you can make reservations in the lots. So that's exciting.
Any comments?
No.
Public comment? Okay, I think we can move that to consent.
A motion to approve the lease for the Westchester United Methodist Church at the High Street lot. I'm sorry. Recommended 2-0.
This included just a 1-hour extension of their time. And there was a 2-year renewal with a 90-day termination clause. From what I understand, the church agreed to what parking committee had recommended.
Am I correct? They did also request additional spaces, but that's not part of this.
They
correct?
did, but parking committee did not
Okay,
agree to that, and the church understood.
okay. Comments, questions? Public comment? Okay, sounds like we can move that to consent. 5,
A motion to approve the trash recycling contract with Blazinski for trash recycling services for retail spaces in the Bicentennial Garage. We needed 3 retail spaces at Bicentennial to be serviced. The money is to be billed back to the tenants per the leases.
comments? Public comment? Okay, we'll move that to consent, please. Move on to Public Works.
There's nothing for public works. Finance.
No items, okay. Move on to Finance and Revenue.
Motion to approve the following purchasing request. All events, party rentals, $12,185.45 for the restaurant festival. Butts tickets, $40,000. We just discussed that for parking. Usalco, $15,280. Phosphorus removal. Cody, $18,536.57. Servers for the police department. And Horgan Tree Experts, $10,720 for pruning. All approved 3-0.
You said that as fast as I could say grace before dinner as a Catholic child. So thank
Amen.
you. Any comments or questions? Public comments? Okay, sounds like we'll move that to consent, please. Move on to Public Safety.
Okay. Number 1, motion to revise Chapter 80 pertaining to background checks for solicitation permits 80-3 and prior approval for fixed locations of 80.10. So this is discussing background check process and procedures and approval items in fixed location. Were minor edits to that document that already exists. It was approved 3-0 per the committee.
Comments? Public comment? All right, sounds like we'll move that to consent, please.
Okay, item number 2. Sound like I'm, okay. Don't want to say special events is gonna, like. Motion to approve the special events application for the Veterans Day Parade. It was approved 3-0. It's an annual event held each year in the borough.
November 9th. Any comments or questions? Public comment? All right, we'll move that to consent, please, and move on to smart growth.
All right, motion to approve resolution for final land development 210 to 214 West Washington Street, Axel Properties. And this was the 8 new townhomes down there. And we just needed Jim Cherry to send some updates by 4 p.m. last Thursday, and he made it under the wire. He's coming back in the door right now, but, oh, it wasn't for, oh.
Yeah, it's one of the that the architectural drawing date was not, they were the old architectural rendering, but we just changed basically just said the architectural rendering. This is the final plan. They went to the zoning hearing board, got relief for the building coverage, because they made the building space a little bigger. Everything else stayed the same from the preliminary plan. The planning commission recommended approval of this, and your department recommended.
I look forward to seeing the project. Are there any comments, questions, council? Public comment? All right, we'll move that to consent.
All right. Discuss amending Chapter 112, 314 Planned University Campus District. Brian Nagel, Westchester University.
Good evening, Borough Council members. My name is Zeb Davenport, and I'm the Vice President for University Advancement and External Affairs at Westchester University. And I would like to
Do you
start
mind
by
pulling
thanking.
the microphone towards you?
How about that? Zeb Davenport, Vice President for Advancement and External Affairs at Westchester University. Would like to start by thanking you all for allowing us to be here tonight to present a proposal for the College Arms Project. As many of you know, we initially presented this project to the Smart Growth Committee last week, and at that time we received feedback from 3 of the council members and a few of the neighbors. And so the purpose for us being here tonight is that we are hoping to receive additional feedback from the balance of the council members, and to let you know that we are also in the process of scheduling a designated neighbor meeting to elicit additional feedback as well. Listen, folks, we have to do something with College Arms. It is in need of significant repairs and renovations. And that said, as we started to think about this project, we had 4 major goals in mind. First, to increase on-campus housing capacity, the on-campus housing capacity, bring more of our students back to campus and or as close to campus as possible, ease the housing pressure in the surrounding neighborhoods, and create a cost-effective way to redevelop the College Arms site. We understand that some of the neighbors were surprised to hear about the potential redevelopment, as it was only alluded to briefly in the previous master plan neighborhood meetings. But as Mr. Nagel mentioned in those meetings, that those sessions were really focused at that time. The focus was on UN Cole's project recommendations, which did not include the redevelopment of the College Arms plan. Hence the reason we are here tonight. We wanted to put this on the public agenda meeting so that we could present the proposal, get your feedback, your questions, your concerns, as well as the community members here present, get their concerns. And I think it's important to know that we do recognize that there's a level of sensitivity, concern, compassion, and passion around this project. And you will see in a moment that we are doing our due diligence to try to make sure we partner with the borough, the members of the community, because we want to partner, we want to collaborate, we want to solve problems that we have while we address the concerns that the community members have. So as many of you know, College Arms, that property, those apartments, there are 3 buildings. And in 2024, what I'm going to do is just frame it really quickly. And then I'm going to call my colleague to the podium, and she will walk through the project, and I think that will address some of the questions and concerns. And then after that, if we could just open it up for whatever comments, I think it'll allow us to get through. I should have said good night, not good evening, but I appreciate your patience. 2024, we took a look at the north building. We had to take it offline for renovations. And during that process, we discovered significant structural and financial challenges that made the renovation cost prohibitive. It would have cost us, or cost the state, over $14 million just to renovate that one building. And frankly, that's just not possible for us to manage. So we had to come up with a redevelopment plan. Now, I want to point out some of what we have taken into consideration at the onset of the design so that we could limit the impact to the neighbors. So initially, our architect proposed 4-story apartment buildings, and we didn't think that would fit the neighborhood. So we asked for a townhouse style project, which you will see in a moment. My colleague, and we actually think this would fit with the neighborhood decor, the characteristics of Townhouse Project. My colleague, again, Nicole Ward, who is the Executive Director for Design and Construction, will cover this, but here are a number of elements to the project that are specifically designed to limit the impact of the neighborhood. So on that site, we're going to have apartments, and we're going to I'll talk a minute about the Welcome Center site. So as I mentioned before, you will see in a moment the style, the architecture style of this new redevelopment kind of mirrors or matches what's happening in the borough itself. We believe that this design will ensure a cohesive and respectful visual presence in the neighborhood, along with, we think it allows for a reasonable redevelopment of the site while still being sensitive to the location on the edge of the NC2 neighborhood. Now, with respect to the Welcome Center that you will see in a moment, it has really two purposes. First of all, it's actually on the corner of Rosedale and High, and we believe that it can serve as a gateway to the campus, but even more broadly, a gateway to the borough. A college like Westchester University, our size, our impact to the region, we do not have a welcome center on our campus. Currently, when folks come to visit, we receive them in one of our ballrooms in our new Sciences and Engineer facility at the Commons. And so we want to include this welcome center. And I think it's important to know that this welcome center is not open 24/7, and it's not going to be something that the traffic actually ebbs and flows in this facility. So when we have accepted students days and parents and families come in, we can receive them there, give them material, and we believe that it's also important to have information about the borough included in the Welcome Center. So information about your merchants, information about sites, all the things, because we believe that when people come to this community, to this university, we expect them to be respectful individuals and partners in our community, but we want to start by ingraining that in them from the very beginning. So it won't just serve for the university. I think it can serve as a gateway, we believe, as a gateway for the borough. Now, from a safety perspective, one, when you see this, it will enhance the visibility around that corner on High and Rosedale. It will improve pedestrian safety because at this point, everybody is kind of channeled to a very narrow sidewalk at that corner. So what we'll do with this facility, it frees up more space, it opens up the sight lines, and it allows pedestrians who are not crossing the street to cut through the courtyard. And so before I pass it on to my colleague, I do want to just reiterate, our goal tonight is to receive your feedback, questions, concerns, feedback from the community, and also just remember that our goal for this project is to increase our on-campus housing capacity, bring more students closer to campus, ease the pressure in the borough, and create a cost-effective way to resolve the issue that we're facing with the College Arms site. And with that, I'll turn it over to my colleague.
Good evening, Council, Mayor. Thank you for affording us the time tonight to present to you what we are proposing for College Arms. If you can go up one slide, please. The project actually includes potentially 3 buildings for our students for up to 420 upperclassmen. We included also a retail space and an administrative office above it, as well as the Welcome Center. The Welcome Center is more parents and students facing. It's more to attract students and their families to the town. Next, please. The proposed redevelopment of College Arms actually includes 3 residential student residence buildings highlighted in yellow. The Welcome Center is in red. It's at the corner of East Rosedale and South High Street. And the retail and admin space at the corner of Linden and South High. We also included a parking for 91 spaces, 11 of which are for the Welcome Center. We have a small portion of above ground parking and the rest is under the building, not underground. And we have the courtyard between the student resident houses. So the block, the redevelopment of College Arms include the entire block from East Rosedale to South High Street, to Linden Street, and back to Sharon Alley. Next, please. Thank you. This is a bird's eye view of the redevelopment. It shows the green spaces, the relationship between the buildings, the street. So, and our intent to actually intentionally integrate this new building in the fabric of the neighborhood and be a part of the NC2 preservation district. Next, please. These are elevations, architectural elevations. Next, please. So we are looking here at the Welcome Center, the proposed Welcome Center, and the pedestrian plaza on the corner of East Rosedale and South High. The proposed material that we would potentially be using on these buildings are reflective of what is existing today on campus itself and in town. We are using the gray stone that is currently on site, actually, the red brick, as well as you would see in the in further slides, we have paneling and copper-like windows and so on and so forth. Next, please. So, and just to mention real quickly, for the pedestrian plaza, it actually balances the existing fountain across the street and really creates a grander entrance to the university and Borough. In this view of the Welcome Center, you would see that there is an open space between this proposed Welcome Center and the residential building next to it that provides a transparency and view towards the alley and the park beyond. It has a visual connection and access to the alley. Next, please. This is a view of the proposed student housing. It's a town style student housing buildings. It matches the scale and architectural style and character of the Westchester Borough. The use of paneling, different colors, the brick, the ornate cornices, the window headers and sills that are different, sloped roof versus flat roofs and different heights really breaks the scale of the project down to the human scale. It makes it a part of the neighborhood. We lowered the entire buildings to the street level rather than how high they sit today. In this rendering, we are not showing the existing posts and chains, only because it's difficult to show them actually at this scale, but they are meant to remain. For further architectural interest, actually, please go back to the slide, previous slide. Previous slide, please. Previous, please.
The previous slide, Bill.
Thank you. For further architectural interest and in order to create transparency and view to the courtyard, the proposed courtyard, we have created an opening between the two buildings along South High Street. And that opening has two purposes, is to create that view for safety and inclusion. And also it allows the buildings the access to the student housing from South High Street and the courtyard. So there will be no access to the housing from the back of the buildings. Next, please. This is a view of the proposed student housing, standing almost on East Rosedale, looking down towards Linden Street on South High Street. Next, please. And this is a view of the student housing along South High Street from almost the corner of Linden, looking down to East Rosedale. Next, please. In this view, this is the corner of Linden and South High Street. We are looking here at the retail space, the proposed retail space with the outdoor cafe and the administrative spaces on the second floor. The white stuff that you see on the exterior, these are actually shade structure or umbrellas that provide shade to the outdoor cafe. Next, please. Now we are approaching Sharon Alley. This is the corner of Linden Street and Sharon Alley. What we were proposing is a green space at that corner that opens up the corner and provides buffer, along with an entrance, a driveway to the surface parking lot and the parking under the building. So we have provided 91 spaces on site, plus more that would benefit or serve the redevelopment. It's about 1,300 feet down the street into the M lot. Next, please. Yeah, this is a view from the closest neighbor's backyard. We have no access points from Sharon Alley to the rear of the building to further discourage student foot traffic through that corridor. The proposed sidewalk that we are showing is meant to serve the families that are visiting the park, which will provide them with a safe walking surface because none exists today. We are also proposing to add, as you can see, street lighting for improved visibility and safety. We also met with our closest neighbors to listen to their feedback, which we believe we can actually accommodate. They requested that we move that building along Sharon Alley a little bit down towards East Rosedale and create a larger green space in front of their backyards. By rotating the building differently, we believe we can actually provide that to them. They asked us also if we can lower the building, which we could potentially by dropping the parking garage about 3 feet below grade to limit that height. We have not completed any of those revisions to date or recommendations because we are compiling all your feedback tonight and those of the neighbors in the upcoming meeting. Once we have all these comments, we will go back to the architect and address them, and we will come back and present the revised plans to you. Next slide. This is a view of the courtyard. We are proposing many access points and viewpoints into the courtyard to eliminate concealed spaces. It creates a sense of community and belonging for our students, but it is contained within the site and is buffered from Sharon Alley by the rear building. Next, please. This is a view of that same courtyard in the evening. You will see we are proposing to have it well illuminated with lampposts, catenary lighting. There are lighting at the entrance of the apartments. But again, the internal nature of that keeps it confined and contained within the site. And that's all I have. Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you. Mr. Nagel, I don't know if you wanted to speak to the next portion of this or just the next slide.
Certainly. Good evening, Brian Nagel on behalf of the university. The next slide shows the revised chart for the borough ordinance, and that really goes with the next slide below that, which is the actual proposed. If you keep going, please, Bill, a little further. No. And that really goes with the proposed draft, which is the proposed amendment to the ordinance. Right now, College Arms is located in the NC2 district. It's part of the university's campus, but it's not part of the planned university district. We're proposing that it be made part of the planned university district through this ordinance, but with greater restrictions that exist today in the planned university district that's consistent with the plan that Nicole just reviewed for you. And then the borough's ordinance uses a chart, which is what you saw before. And if you go through that, you'll see that what we've done is we've removed a lot of the uses that would be allowed in the planned university district to narrowly tailor this to fit in its location where it is today. So that's the complete package, and we're happy to answer any
Thank you.
questions. Our goal is to, as Zeb said, is to get feedback from the balance of council and from the neighbors. And then we have scheduled a meeting for Thursday, October 23rd at 6:30 p.m. That will be in the Phillips Memorial Building, Ashblunt Concert Hall, so that Fourth Ward and other borough residents can come and give their feedback in that informal setting. And then our goal would be to take the feedback we received at Smart Growth, feedback we received this evening, feedback we received at that meeting on the 23rd, and then incorporate as much of that as we can into what we've presented to you.
Thank you. Ms. Camp or Mr. Metric, any other background you want to offer before council opines?
I was here obviously at the Smart Growth, and 3 members of Smart Growth gave their commentary. Because any zoning amendment is a discretionary decision of council, it really is important to understand if there's 4 people on council that want to see either what they've proposed or some form of what they proposed to allow the redevelopment to go forward. They can't do this project without a zoning amendment, and that is 100% a discretionary decision. It's not like the ordinance allows it now, and it's a hearing that you have to hold. It's, do you like it or not? And it can either be absolutely not, no thank you, deal with what the NC2 district allows with a non-conforming use, and our ordinance does allow them to do some things, I think 25% expansion, or, hey, yeah, we like exactly what you've proposed with a couple of tweaks, work with our solicitor to get to where you need to do that, or somewhere in the middle. You know, we're willing, and it sounds like some of the Smart Growth members were not saying absolutely no, but they expressed concerns about parking, they expressed concerns about maybe the number of beds. So that would be somewhere in the middle, where you're working towards allowing redevelopment, maybe not to the scale and the density of what they're proposing, maybe not with the Welcome Center. I know that was one of the commentaries. So it's really a discretionary decision on behalf of council. Sean and I can't do anything until we know what a majority of council want to do. So I thought that was really important to have this conversation. And I'm glad to see that the university is having a meeting with the neighbors, because I think that was one of the concerns, was that they had submitted the master plan conditional use application, and then this came out. So it was like, this will, if you agree to let this property be rezoned to be PUC, it will have to go, their master plan will have to be amended so that this redevelopment gets part of that master plan. It's not going to be an island unto itself.
So just for clarity for public, as obviously and council, the purpose of tonight is a discussion. Are we going to move forward with this and take it to the next step or not? So feedback.
McCoy, at the last meeting, one of our residents mentioned that the facade of the College Arms building is a historical rendition of what the borough should look like and what we expect. I reached out to the Historical Commission, Mr. Tom Walsh, and he said this building has no significant historical features or evidence. It is iconic, but it has nothing to do with historical protection under the law. So he said it was made as an apartment building many years ago and has been used by the university and other people as the years go by. So that portion of one of the major questions was, is this building historic? No, it's not. So that takes that major feature off the table.
But just by way of, I think one of the things you said, the look of it, yeah, it is iconic. One of the things that I noticed in one of the early photos, the three gables, as you're walking down, is to me the iconic part of it. So if that's something you could consider perhaps to the questions or comments that were raised, there's a way to, put some gables, South Street or South High Street facing, that would be great. That's my comment. I mean, I think the project is important. We need the extra beds. I don't know if 400 is the right number. But it's already used as a campus housing. And I think overall it would be an improvement. I'd like to see it, but there are concerns relative to parking, pedestrian traffic. I think are the two biggest items on the list for me. Council who didn't get a chance to comment already, provide some feedback.
I'm actually very much in favor of doing some of this. I think that the entrance to Westchester from South High Street is really important and would be significantly beautified if you went ahead with this. However, sitting up here on council and hearing how frequently the council is disappointed by your lack of funding of whatever projects we are trying to move forward, and how you are not a tax-paying parcel, and we're in litigation with you over various issues. I want to use this opportunity. We're going to possibly do you a huge favor. I want to hear what you will do for us. I want to help fund the ambulance. I want to help fund the library. I want to help fund more of these things. And I want your assistance in doing these things. And I want to see this project go through. So that's my.
Mr. Travis, Mr. McGinnis, any other comments?
I mean, I watched the smart growth meeting. I thought some of the residents from Ward 4 made really good points about this being in a neighborhood conservation district. It's called a neighborhood conservation district for a reason. We're trying to conserve the neighborhood. This doesn't necessarily do that. I'm concerned about the size. I'm concerned about, I like the look. I got to say, it's a beautiful building, well designed. And I know its intention. I worry about the density that's already in that area. I've been sending pictures to Ramsey and Lisa Dorsey daily about the parking shortages that are just 4 blocks north of this building. Can't park there as residents. 91 spots or whatever it was is very deficient. There's no way that this solves any problems that we currently have in the neighborhood. In fact, it'll amplify them. I'm concerned about the size. I'm concerned about the design in terms of the parking. The rest of the campus is kind of open to the neighborhood. The residents walk around all the sidewalks and down Church Street and through through the university walks, and this feels very shut off and isolated from the rest of the neighborhood. It doesn't feel welcoming to people that actually live there. They have to walk around the perimeter to get to a sidewalk to get to a public park. So that feels very exclusive to what's there currently, which feels very welcoming, regardless of whether people walk around that area now. But it does feel very exclusive just by looking through the diagrams. I'm concerned about the density of students that we already have in terms of foot traffic. The intersection there at Rosedale and High Street and trying to get through there and make a turn, especially a left turn. If you're going south on High, with 420 more people trying to cross over onto the campus, I'm concerned about that. I think we just made huge improvements to add traffic signals to improve safety in that corridor, and this is going to undo that with that many more people being added there. Again, these are comments. I can't prove any of those that are actually going to come to fruition, but that's my feeling based on my experience in Ward 2. And traffic moves, foot traffic moves. We're always going to have an issue with roving, noise, and foot traffic because of the proximity where this is. High Street, Walnut right behind it, Sharon Alley. Those are major thoroughfares for foot traffic into town, all the way up into the town center. It's just going to add more of that to that side of town. So those are my comments. Those are my concerns about this plan.
Mr. Travis, thank you. I just want to make one clarification. The total number of parking spaces proposed is 210. It's just 91 are on site. And then there's additional designated spaces proposed nearby.
Those additional proposed spaces again?
Where?
Yeah, where the 91 are going to be on site and then
91 on site and then the additional in M-Lot.
in M-Lot M1 or M-Lot. I don't know exactly where M-Lot is. Is there a diagram on the other side of the Bull Center? Okay, so
Correct.
on the other side of the
On the other side of Rosedale Avenue. Correct.
that's
Within
quite a
about
distance.
within about 1,300 feet.
Okay, I did hear that. Yeah.
Additional comments?
Yeah. I did review this project. I watched the Smart Growth Committee meeting. I heard Zeb's presentation. And one thing he said that got me is he was looking to improve on-campus housing, but yet this is off-campus, correct? But you did say on-campus housing.
Let me just say on and or needs.
Okay, so thank you for clarifying that. The issue here, and here's the reason why I'm against this. In 2022, Westchester University announced the largest incoming freshman class. 2023, same thing again. You did it before in 2021. It kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. You always had a supply and demand problem. I said that at the last time this master plan was presented. And yet the answer was, well, We got to let people in. You don't have to let everybody in. The issue with that, it led to a shortage of promised on-campus housing that led to protests in the fall of 2023 that you're all familiar with. The issue isn't ours to solve, okay? It's not the taxpayers, the people in the fourth ward. We already have seen the budget presentation. A third of the borough is basically doesn't pay any property taxes at all. So we have to subsidize that. This particular project seems to me is non-conforming use, a non-conforming lot, and a non-conforming building, and yet we want to make an exception. And the question is, what other exceptions are we going to keep making for the university? Why is it Westchester taxpayers always have to solve the university's problem? You could build on the super block. You could always build up. You have room down in South Campus. You could build there. Mr. Nagel, I agreed with you on the majority of the projects you came to Borough Council. You know where I stand on economic development, but not at the price of the taxpayer. We're essentially subsidizing what you all want to accomplish. And my thing is, if you can't build it, then you could sell it. You could still make a nice profit. We could put townhomes in there. We could respect the residents of the fourth ward, and for that matter, the taxpayers. But it seems like the university doesn't respect Westchester Borough. You filed a lawsuit not to pay any stormwater drainage when you sit at the base of the borough and you collect stormwater, and that stormwater, we're going to have to eventually remediate that and fix that. We are, the taxpayers, not the university. It's being decided in the Pennsylvania Supreme Court. You know that, Mr. Nagel.
The university didn't file a challenge, it was filed by the state.
It's not a mischaracterization because you always hide behind the state. So with that being said, we also saw the presentation here. Chaz did. Thank you for that. 8.5% of ambulance calls are on the university campus. $25,000. We get nothing for it. So I have to propose an ambulance tax to cover that, to cover the remaining of the borough because of that. It seems that you all keep taking and taking and taking, but you don't want to give. And you put this presentation up here, and it looks great, by the way. Love it. But the bottom line is it doesn't benefit us. When you talked about parking, you told Mr. Travis, and this was, play semantics, they could park somewhere else. So that not only is, to me, I think wrong, but it also violates our own ordinance when it comes to housing and parking and apartments. So we're making so many of these, I'm going to call them gifts to Westchester University, and we get nothing in return. Nothing. The mayor, last couple of years was able to successfully negotiate for homecoming, and I think we could get more. I think we could get more for that. But, I feel for these people over here in the fourth ward. And so thank you for letting me know when that meeting is, because I think that's a good time that we should all organize to be against this. I don't think this is a good project. It doesn't benefit Westchester Borough at all. And if the university wants to build, they have the super block. They have South Campus. They could be creative, but they can't be creative on the backs of the taxpayers. That's where I stand.
Additional comments?
May I just, a couple quick things. I appreciate your comments, Mr. McGinnis. I certainly do. I just want to say that to say we do nothing, I'm sure that was semantics, because there is an economic impact that the university has on the borough by our students and our employees spending in the community. We do a lot of volunteer work for Westchester University. We actually pay students to work in local businesses so that they can help solve problems through the office of where Julie Dietrich works. We do give money to the borough for the overtime with police. I don't want to go back and forth. I just want to make the statement known that to say we do nothing. Now, in fact, I just got an email from Ms. Simone today to ask us to have a conversation about the Good Fellowship proposal. And I wrote back and said, we certainly need to have that conversation. Didn't know it was going to be on this today, but regardless of that, we already had that conversation. And it's not about a quid pro quo. It is about we are also members of the community. So I just want to state on record to say we do nothing. And again, that might be semantics, I think is far from what we do, because we do contribute to the community in many ways, and we will continue to do that because we want to be good partners. We may not be able to give everything people want, but you can best believe from this university's perspective and our current administration, we do want to reach out. We do want to be involved. We do want to partner with this borough. So I can't speak for what happened in the past, as I've been here only since 2016. And back here, my friend back there told me, you're just a baby in this community. But the point is, I have over 30 years of experience working with town-gown relationships, and I know for a fact with this new administration, our goal is to continue to try to figure out how we can partner with the borough. Thank you.
Just make sure council understands that your decision on a zoning, whether you choose to change zoning to allow a development, has to stand alone from a planning perspective. It cannot be tied to what they're going to give you as far as EMS contributions or what they're going to do about paying for. That is absolutely not allowed. It's contract zoning. You cannot do that. It's unlawful. So please make sure your planning decisions are based on planning and zoning and not what fees you want to have the university pay. I understand the concern. I think it's relevant. I think it's another conversation, but it cannot be tied to a zoning decision.
Ms. Camp, can I ask a question about the current zoning and if the building was raised or if somebody put an addition on it? You mentioned something
So
about
right now, in the NC2 district, the use that's there now is considered a lawful non-conforming use. And there are provisions in your code, I think it's section 801 of your zoning ordinance, that talk about whether it can be expanded. And I think there's a zoning hearing board process. I think if you go through a special exception, I think they're limited to an expansion of 25%. So there is a process for them. I think the issue though is that they've told you there's $14 million to renovate a building. So that's not, I don't think that's the process that they want to go through. But I mean, somebody said they could surely sell it and then it can be built in accordance with your NC2 standards, which is dwellings basically.
All right. I'm going to make some positive comments here. I live in Ward 4. I'm looking at this many moons ago. I won't say exactly how many. When I was a mere student at Westchester University, I visited my friends who lived in College Arms. And, you know, they were students, grad students. I forget what they were at that point in time. But still, I mean, it's been student housing for too many moons. I also appreciate the work, the design, the consideration that has been put into this particular development. It may not be perfect. There's room for feedback. You're gathering that. Everybody's providing a lot of feedback and with regards to numbers and parking and movements, that it sounds like you're potentially going to move the building slightly and all of these things. So I very much appreciate that you guys are trying to get feedback from everyone, all the council members, people in the community, what have you. I also do know that I've talked to a couple of people, one that lives in Ward 4 who was here earlier tonight, but unfortunately, as the meeting's gone on for a while, had to go home, who lives in Ward 4 and has had a very positive response to the development and the idea behind it. I think also Mike Reese, who was here last week, also has a positive response. I think he's giving you feedback about things that he would change, but overall it's a positive response. I've talked to neighbors in Westchester, in the borough that aren't in Ward 4, also when they heard about this had a very positive response. So you're going to get hit with responses from both angles. It's not all negative. I think there is positive impact to the community, and there are community members that are going to see this as a positive response to a building that has been housing students for many, many years and is falling apart. So I just want to say I look forward to continuing these conversations, helping you guys get as much feedback as possible so that we can consider what needs to be done to have a win-win situation for everyone. So that's my thought there.
Thank you. Mr. Flynn?
Mr. McCoy, thank you. Nicole Ward, the picture of the Welcome Center is not very indicative of a daily excitement that you have at Rosedale and High Street. I sat there for 4. I had to go to the bathroom too. And I sat there for 4 traffic lights. And when you're 74 years old, 4 traffic lights seems like a lifetime. Believe me, I was starting to dance a little bit in my car. But is because of the traffic and the 420 kids, they're not all going to be at the same time, but you just need to be there when class gets out. Is it possible to go to PennDOT and change the intersection so that there's turning arrows and give people chances to get across? If that 104 bus didn't turn, I had to go get my car detailed because the picture is beautiful, but that ain't indicative of that corner. Bill, can you put that Welcome Center back up there? I mean, I kind of wish that it was indicative of what it was, but it's right there. Jesus, they ain't nowhere near where it's
That's
supposed to be.
5 a.m. on a Tuesday morning.
Yeah, and I don't have to go to the toilet, but I mean, it's something that to me, other than the 250 kids that are going to be there, traffic is crazy right there. And I'm going to tell you, here it is.
I mean, the pedestrian traffic, I think, has come up on multiple
Yeah.
occasions, and ideally, I think it needs a bridge. I mean, I know there are going to be traffic studies that are going to be done as part of the land development process, but to me, the only reasonable thing for people that live in town that drive north-south through it is, as you pointed out,
Yeah.
there has to be a better solution than what's there now.
It's a
Yeah, we would work with PennDOT on improving.
that would be a deal breaker for me, really. I know PennDOT is not the easiest people to deal with. Either is Mr. DEP, so those acronyms really are hard to deal with, but we need to do something about that intersection.
They just did that, the whole piece, so we have to go back and hey, whether it's timing on the lights, what have you, but we're happy to go back and have a discussion.
All the lights are being shut off because
We're getting locked in tonight.
it's a problem. That's a real problem right there. Yeah. During your planning, I think it's really indicative of frustration of everybody, even the kids.
Okay, Ms. Dorsey, do you have any comments?
The only comment, I mean, I shared a lot during Smart Growth, basically what we heard from the neighbors, but I also want to acknowledge the effort that the university has made with this new administration in building a partnership. Been on council for 5.5 years have not seen this level of engagement and willingness to have conversations and partnerships. So I want to acknowledge the administration's willingness and desire. It feels genuine desire to, have these conversations and partner with the borough, so that we can build a better community. But, moving the community, moving the borough and the university forward. So just, I want to acknowledge the difference that I've seen just in the past year with the new administration. And I do believe it's going to make a difference.
Thank you. All right, finally, we're going to open up to public comments and others. Just a reminder, we're going to limit it to 5 minutes. Thank you.
Ann Carroll, 506 South Franklin Street, speaking for myself and not for Case, because as I said at Smart Growth, we knew nothing of this, so we had no opportunity to meet. And to clarify, I am glad that the university is willing to meet with us, but it was our insistence on meeting with them that caused the meeting that will happen, God willing, on October 23rd. And again, because it's fairly short notice, I'm hoping as many people as possible in our neighborhood will show up. I want to clarify a few more things. I am old. I guess that didn't need clarification. I've been here for 49 years at my current residence, and I lived here before that as a child. We have done many things on this borough council to attempt to work with the university and to keep them constrained. Many of the things we did, that 25% growth of non-conforming, that was something that we did because we saw that a lot of things were growing out of control. What more recent councils did with the super block, good. It was to contain. That College Arms is not part of the campus. I know they consider it part of the campus because they stealthily, one by one, bought all the buildings. And I even challenged when Mr. Perrone was in the planning department that those were dormitories in College Arms. But our council apparently said, or whoever at that time, was that they were apartments. And you may have visited, yes, Nicole, you may have visited students, graduate students, et cetera, in those apartments, but there were actual neighbors who also lived in those apartments before they were bought by the university. There's a little house tucked in there that now has a university sign on it. So go down, make sure you take a look at it. It's a beautiful little house. And then there was the Rathskeller Bar. Those of you who went to the university, you know, and some of the neighbors went there and hung out in the bar. That's where I went after I did my oral exams for my master's degree with my professor, who was a member of Borough Council as well as my professor and one of the questioners during my 3-person exam. So there's a lot of history here, but it is not a part of the campus. This zoning ordinance would make it part of the campus. And what you would be doing is carving out a portion of NC2 to give to the campus. So I ask each one of you, if someone said they were coming to your NC2 and carving something out and giving it to an entity, how would you feel? So that's the first question I would like you to consider. I would like you to consider and read carefully the comprehensive plan. I would like you to consider and look carefully, even though it may get changed, at the master plan, which says that part of the purpose of the creating the superblock was to strengthen and preserve existing housing stock. I would like you to consider that all of us who live in buildings that are old have to put maintenance into them continually, and it is expensive. I've replaced practically every pipe in my house, which was built in 1895. Okay, so in addition, I have a little list, and I'll go through as quickly as I can. I'm not talking about design. We're not there. This is about the ordinance. So look at the student home map that you have here. There's a colored map in Aaron's office that has all the student homes marked out. Please look at that map and look particularly at Ward 4, Ward 3, and parts of Ward 2. Look at all of the properties in the borough, and you might go across Rosedale Street and look at West Goshen. They would, I'm sure, help you out, that have been one, purchased by the university, one by one by one, like Pac-Man, and then removed from the tax rolls. And that's important to us. We talked about it tonight. Look at the stealth pattern that the university used to do that. We didn't know they were buying college arms. We had no clue. Not a clue. No
Ms.
one
Carroll,
knew.
just a reminder, we're already at
All right.
5.
Sort of unfair, but okay.
It is 5 minutes.
I understand. Look at the morphing of the uses within those parcels that Pac-Man ate. Morphing of the uses to being uses that are not actually permitted by our code, and we just didn't catch them fast enough, or somebody turned the other way. Look at the demand that this thing would place on a park that is supposed to be a treasure in our neighborhood. Look at the demand. And we have in this borough a housing problem. And the 4th ward is the most affordable housing that we have, as well as parts of the 2nd ward. That is where our affordable housing is. So because they need housing, we give up what we need to support our people who work in our restaurants and stuff and have to live there. So, and I would also refer you to the Pell study of 2017 to understand the impacts. Thank you.
All right, go ahead, finish it off.
Good evening. Shannon Mandine. I live at 711 South Matlack Street. I have 3 children who play at Ruston Park, who ride their bikes up Rosedale to Ruston Park, through the alley and Sharon Alley, which they say there will be no traffic through, and back down the hill. My 4-year-old calls it sloping. She goes down the hill and she just lifts up her feet and goes. That block of Walnut Street, South Walnut Street, is all students. And they're fine folks. They have their music on, they have their things going, they come over to the park sometimes. If you, in your discretion, increase the campus size to put a campus housing here, a green space, and then South Walnut there, you will take the park from the residents. There is no doubt in my mind. And again, I get along with the student neighbors. I don't have a problem in general. I told Mr. Nagel over the phone earlier that in the morning, if there's a pizza in my bush on occasion, I get it. They're living their lives. I think I'm a good neighbor. I'm asking you not to do a purely discretionary act and increase the size of campus and lose the neighborhood, because you will lose Ruston Park. It will become a place for college kids to hang out. And again, they deserve some space to hang out, but so do my kids, and I pay taxes for it. And so I would really ask you to not use your discretions here. Emphasize what Mr. McGinnis said. It's discretionary, especially for 400 extra people coming and going. That's more than the entire block of South Walnut there. I don't think there are 400 kids who live there. So, I mean, I have other issues with it, but I'm really asking you to use your discretion and not allow them to increase the campus size, regardless of what else they want to do with their land, and they have the right to do with their land, but within the rights that exist now and not expanding those rights.
Thank you very much.
Darrell Cook, 506 South Walnut Street. A 10-foot setback for a 45-foot building doesn't work in my view. How were upperclassmen picked for the site is what I'm.
Sophomores and up.
How was that decided? Not freshmen that can't drive cars?
Freshmen, this would be a no freshman building. Correct.
Design of the buildings not really conducive for first-year students. If we had our desire, that's why it would be more upperclassmen and not first-year students.
Just because you weren't at the mic, your answer was that the design is more for upperclassmen. Is that because of the kitchens and things like that?
First-year students. It's really more conducive to have first-year students in places where they can build community. This has apartment-style housing, so it is more conducive from a student developmental perspective, and that's what I studied. My master's is developmental student, to have this kind of space for upper class and not first-year students, because that community allows them to create a sense of belonging, connectedness, and that's what we want to do with that. So that's why it will be more for the upper class students. You're welcome.
I like the policy that freshmen can't drive cars. Did you all notice the historic map display earlier tonight where the line was? Bernie? High Street? I think this is on the wrong side of High Street. And 80% coverage on site? Thank you.
Thank you. Additional comments?
Slides. You like pictures, Bernie?
I'm
I'm giving you pictures. I like
Reminder,
pictures too.
please, if you could keep it to 5 minutes.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. No worries. Lisa Kearns, 300 Block West Middle Street. My first impression of this proposal, I don't know a lot about it, but they weren't really favorable. Actually, I take that back. When I looked at some of the pictures, I thought they looked really cool. I just think they look cool for somewhere else. I question the density and the design of this in this area. This is a neighborhood conservation district, as has been said. And as I understand that, that zoning designation is aimed to preserve the character of older areas by controlling the density and scale of new development to be compatible with the existing neighborhood feel. And I would argue this proposal doesn't do this. So picture this block. You've all been there, entering the town from the south. As VP Davenport said, this is the gateway to Westchester Borough, not just Westchester University. So this is the first slide. You have the university and the fountain and everything on the left side, taking up that whole corner. And on the right, you have set back from the street an historic, not on the list of historic places, but an old building purposely built to look like history with a wide green lawn set back from the street, beginning to give you a sense of the old historic Westchester Borough and a neighborhood vibe. Next slide, please. So as you know, this is the first old building that you see on the right. Again, an historic vibe, green, set back from the street. Next slide, please. This is the entrance to College Arms. Again, a classic, iconic history vibe, which was obviously intentionally preserved when this was built, because it wasn't built back in the dark ages, you know, set back from the street, giving you again that unique character that is Westchester. Next slide. So this is looking north from the front of College Arms. And as you can see, again, as far as you can see, it's green, set back from the street. Next slide, please. This is the streetscape. If you're continuing to drive into town, block after block, this is what you see. Green space, old historic homes, human scale. Next slide, please. This is what the university wants you to see. 3-story buildings with, I would say, not a lot of character, pressed right up against the street. No green, no breathing room. Next slide, please. So we will be going from this on the left to this on the right. And this is one of the ones I looked at and I thought, that's a cool building. But again, it's a welcome to Westchester University. So I'm not certain what this town is. Are we a town with a university or a university with a town? We have to coexist together, absolutely, and honor our past together, what we are and what we want to be moving forward. This is what the university wants to see moving north from the Welcome Center down High Street. Again, no green space, no feeling of history, really. Certainly none of the unique Westchester neighborhood vibe that exists now and continues on and on for blocks into town. This would be like more like a crowded downtown shopping district right as you hit Westchester before you get into all the nice parts of Westchester. All right, next slide, please. So the question is, do you want to destroy kind of this nice neighborhood conservation district feel? Next slide. And put this, what I will argue is a very out of character welcome to Westchester in stark contrast to what exists now. Make no mistake, I am not opposed to more student housing here, and I'm certainly not saying that the university should spend millions of dollars to fix what exists, but I think we can ask for a proposal that does a better job preserving the character, the density, and the scale of the neighborhood. And just in closing, I'd ask you to keep in mind this quote as you make your decisions. As Winston Churchill said, "We shape our buildings, but thereafter they shape us." Thank you.
Tom, you have 10 seconds left.
See?
You want to use that? Mr. Fluke?
Aaron Fluke is before I'm the Director of Building and Housing for the Borough of Westchester. I just heard one comment earlier that sparked something in my mind, and it was simply that the university could sell this property and have somebody else come in and do maybe what we would feel more comfortable with. But that's looking at it from one point of view. They could sell this property and it could go to somebody who wants to come in and do something completely different that we would be completely
Aaron, they
foreign
can't, they can't hear
That
you in
we
the
might
back.
be complete. They could sell the property.
Can you
and
speak up, please?
I'm trying to. They could sell the property, but it may be to somebody that isn't in line with what we want to do, that is wanting to do something that might be absolutely more abhorrent. The only thing I would say, as the Director of Building and Housing, and only being a resident of the Westchester area for 81 days, I can't really say I have a lot of history here or know what you guys are feeling. I would just say this is that you have a bird in the hand right now, and it's always much more valuable than the two in the bush. So I would just say that if there are things that are bothering you about this, if there are things that are bothering the people that are in that area about this, really put it into a constructive format and try to work with what you have in the hand right now, so that you can work towards something that would be maybe not make everybody perfectly ecstatic, but that everybody could join together in some sort of consensus to move forward with.
Thank you. Additional comments? I propose, it's been a long evening, that we discuss this further at voting session tomorrow.
Do we want to table it until after they have the meetings with, like, send it back to Smart Growth after they have the meetings?
We could do that.
Yeah,
Sure.
we've had a good discussion tonight. Yeah. Okay.
I just wanted to say one brief thing, 1 minute, is that, you know, Westchester and the university both are experiencing growing pains, and that's because we both have successful things going on. The borough is successful, the university is successful, and I think we need to learn how to coexist and work together. The past has been the past, but you know, there's an effort with the new administration to do better, and I think we all need to learn how to work together and resolve this. I would, only one other thing, when you come into Westchester now, that property on the right, it's awful. It does not represent Westchester. There's nothing iconic about that building. It looks like a dump, and it is a dump. And I think that what is proposed is far better than what is there. Maybe we need some more gables, maybe we need some more flourishes. Maybe, you know, you want to sell it. I don't know where you're going to land, but I think the most important thing here is that we work together because we're both experiencing success. The Westchester University does a lot for the community, and Westchester Borough does a lot for the university. So we want some reciprocity, and most importantly, we want to work together to figure this out. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Hopefully we'll have a recording of the meeting. If not all of us can attend the neighborhood meeting, that would be great if you have the ability to do that.
Phillips?
At Phillips, I assume you would. I don't know.
I can take myself.
All right, thank you very much. Okay,
All right.
we are moving on. We do have more.
Yes, but wait, there's more. All right, number 3, consider directing the solicitor to attend zoning hearing board. So we had 2 items there, and one was for 740 South Matlack Street. It was zoning relief from required parking, curbing, and alley. It's related to the Public Works call out about they didn't want the curbing there. So we recommended no solicitor for that one. And then for 124 East Chestnut Street, we have zoning relief from a side yard setback. There's more to that they want to build. And so we did also with the recommendation of Mr. Fluke that we would send a solicitor there. And
Shimoni, the second one was withdrawn. 124 East Chestnut was withdrawn. Since that meeting, they have withdrawn an application.
Oh, okay. I thought you were saying with John, and I was like, wait, who's John? What did I miss? Okay, all right, so just the 740 South Matlack, no solicitor. Any questions from anybody here?
Any public?
Anyone? Oh, sorry.
Okay,
All right. All right, motion to approve HARB applications, lots of great signage. HARB had approvals with, you know, some recommendations for adjustments, but we all felt comfortable with what HARB had recommended. Any questions from anyone here? Any questions from anyone in attendance? Nope, okay. All right.
move that to consent, please.
All right, motion to schedule a public hearing on November 19th, 2025 to amend Chapter 112, 309B, revised dimensional requirements in the TC Town Center Zoning District. And this is to the build 2 lines to be 0. And we've gone over this before. It's just a matter of this next step to schedule a meeting for that. Any questions on this guy?
Public comment.
Sheila's checking her phone. She's good.
All right, move that to consent, please.
And last one, motion to schedule a public hearing on November 19th, 2025 to amend zoning code to add a unified residential development use zoning and amend relative definitions. This was the one that Jim had to have that Thursday, 4 o'clock under the wire, and he did. And this is with regards to creating this unified residential development use zoning, which supports some of the new developments that we would like to see, including things like what we have seen from Burger King, the Pete Stas on High Street. So this is just not a residential development use zoning, not an overlay, but just a new zone so that we can support some of those buildings that we want to see. Any questions? I mumbled that, but it's 10:15. It's way past my bedtime.
Any
So-
public comment? Thank you. All right, move that to consent, please. And is there any other business?
Just one other item that we have to approve at tomorrow night's meeting that didn't make it to the work session agenda. It would be a motion to approve an employee separation agreement. And you all are aware of what that is. And we do need to approve it at a public meeting. So I would like, since it wasn't on our agenda to discuss tonight, that we put that on tomorrow night's discussion.
Okay. Dana, you've got that for tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Some good.
Behind you.
Can I end with some good news?
No, you gotta look behind you.
Comment?
You got a Daryl lurking.
Oh.
Unless you got good news too.
Daryl Cook, will the borough advertise the university meeting?
Yeah, we need to put that on the borough. We said we were going to put that on the website. Yes. So we know the location now too, right? October 23rd, 6:30 PM at Phillips.
Okay, if one person could speak at a time here, and what are we saying there?
Buying breakfast for everybody.
But Dana, you need some clarity, I believe. Correct. Very much.
And after 9 months, the DEP approved our connection management plan. So we're good on.
Yeah.
Excellent, thank you. All right, we adjourned at 10:16.